was also putting the roses. Oh, HR.
Still, how do you break your finger?
I know. Rules.
Swingers.
And they, oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it doing?
I forgot her name.
Oh, you being serious?
I did.
Nice.
Oh, Rooney, right?
Oh,
Ruby?
oh, they did, it's good.
She is cute as a button.
Beagle, maybe a little Chihuahua in her, so I think she's actually a Cheagle.
She's kind. She fits in Clayton's hand. She's so
That's
kind.
nice.
Oh, really? Smart.
So the story of her is Linda went into work at the ER on Friday, July 3rd. This patient was in there with this puppy.
And then.
You take care of the puppy finally.
ER where?
Where's the ER at that time?
Nice.
I guess it's like.
Think I-
You have to get rid of a puppy, you bring it to the guy.
And so this lady had said, "Oh, I got this from a guy at a barbecue yesterday." That's all. I don't want this dog. So I became out of control.
Nice. Come get this dog.
Keep it.
But this,
She covered her bases.
this
This
is
is
a,
the Dean,
But this
Des
lady-
Moines PD officer that's on station there. He came in, turned on the body chair right now. So it's on record that you surrendered this animal.
this is nothing on this.
Nice.
Oh, but the girls were just head over heels to get.
Well, what I'm bringing up is in the.
No, I got rescued.
Oh, I came and got it.
Oh, you came and got
Yeah.
it. Oh.
Because this was July 3rd.
Oh.
Well, she actually was just like, but the department, as she FaceTimed me from like the basketball closet, like, "You gotta get this dog." But then his daughter's, or this lady's daughter's like, "Oh, I can get it," but then the daughter never showed up. It's not like this, like, she just as well, it just had no reason. I wonder if she actually was given this
It's a
dog.
Friday,
or
31st and Friday.
she was nurse lady. My wife, yeah, my wife's a nurse. Yeah, she's an ER nurse and she's in school to be for a doctorate nurse practitioner.
Just so you're gonna hear that mic is picking up the whole conversation. So
31st is a Friday.
Shut her down.
I tried to shut it off, and it won't shut off.
That's a Thursday.
And don't worry, everything's on radio. I brought it over because I want to show off like what's a radio station, what's everything's on the open talk, whatever. No, look, you're a little rainy, it's not Heather, it's mostly. Before that, she was at a surgery center in West Des Moines. Before that, she was at interventional radiology at Unity Point, downtown, Methodist downtown.
She go to,
And before that, she was at the cardiac surgical cardiac call.
she go to school in town.
She's doing that great.
Where'd she get her to?
Oh, she did her 2-year
For her RN.
university in Des Moines.
She do the SNL.
Then she got her BSN from Chamberlain.
Oh, nice.
Then she's doing her DNP from,
Sorry. Great. Very good. Yeah, they got a nice NP program.
I got a puppy.
I know, I heard, I wanted to babysit it. I heard, let me see, I heard it was here.
Even deeper.
She's a beagle, oh, she's tiny. That's beagle, that's beagle, look.
What are you doing? You in trouble? Yeah, man. Getting called into like Harper, what's the dealio? Yeah, man.
I don't need your big.
It's up to them to give information. They are nonprofit to file any idea reports that require us to file a document. But,
Chris gets
you
up
know,
Who's here?
What?
kind of perspective. It was a lot of things.
Oh, we got-
What do you want to talk about?
And so
Which
I
one?
thought I was the only one that
Big radio show.
Oh, yeah.
this came up in YouTube. So,
How's it going?
Yeah.
to addition last year, it was $1.3
Are you
million
going to tile night too?
to cancel research.
Quit for all those calls out.
It's my words, not theirs. So, but they were following all the legal procedures that they're supposed to. But they were a nonprofit.
Oh, it was cross.
They were supposed to have a
Okay.
review.
So it'll be a real slow movement.
Yeah.
You want to sit back here with us?
I was originally going to.
Yeah, man. You're snapping. You sit right here.
So truly,
I know.
She don't know.
she'll have water for one day. So.
They
and
had
hopefully
asked.
it's not-
When they're 99
Well, they
years
do
old,
this. It was about 40.
you know, they're on a different, calendar year.
And you're okay with the dog?
It's got people. It's fine.
Well, you'll have everything.
They do everything they're supposed to do.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody.
As soon as you see what's going on, you dig in.
Nobody younger than us.
Yeah, just wait for.
Young man.
Well, I'm looking at
Okay.
a couple of- Oh,
Uh-oh.
It's warm season.
the buffalo. You're gonna have buffalo? You're gonna have bison?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a white buffalo.
Go eat some cake. I brought cake. It's from, it's a fundraiser for the Boy Scouts. I bought it from
I don't know if
Chris's
she
son.
sent it back.
So, you guys need to go eat it.
Oh, that's a cake.
It's a coffee cake. Dave's coffee.
Coley Cole.
I don't even talk to
What's
him.
going on?
Everybody's a son of those domestic animals, it's the owner, nowhere in there says it's going to occupy.
Not heard back from her yet.
I want the
Dollars and
owner
cents.
to be occupying these.
Also, I want roosters back. Cause I know more about chickens now than I ever wanted to know. So the roosters aren't gonna make a difference. They really. And if,
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
You bet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear us in the chambers?
Can you hear me?
Everybody. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Mark, can you hear us at all?
Are you texting Jeff?
Can you hear me?
No.
Jeff Schneider?
Oh, yeah, Jeff, or not Jeff, but Greg, were you supposed to?
No, I can't hear you.
Can you hear us now? I just love technology.
Yes, they are.
This will be the time that Joe Darter will tell a joke now while we're waiting.
I'm not a very funny guy.
Mark, can you hear us now?
You want to have them? Can you hear me? You can hear me.
Yes,
Test one of your mics.
yes. It's echoing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear us now, Mark?
Mark, can you hear us?
Okay. Ready to go? I call to order the city council for the city of Marshalltown. We are in City Hall Council Chambers at 10 West State Street, July 13th, 2026 at 5:34 p.m. Would you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Cahill? Here. Fonseca? Here. Mitchell? Nichols?
Here.
Schneider?
Here.
Thompson?
Here.
Yepes Gomez?
Here. Okay, we have a full house. Moving on to public comments. Members of the public may make comments on any item that is not on the agenda at this time. The speaker shall approach the microphone, state their name and address. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes unless a longer comment is authorized by the mayor. The speaker shall direct comments to the mayor and the council as a whole. The mayor and council may provide a response to a public comment, but shall not engage in discussion or debate on items raised by members of the public. No action may be taken on items raised in public comments to comply with open meetings laws. And with that, the microphone is open.
Good evening, Council. Linda Clark, 306 South 2nd Avenue, where I am a fourth-generation person living on that property. And I'm more than happy to give my complete address. I did it, didn't I? Okay. My comment is this. I have had very good opportunities in the city of Marshalltown. Thanks to circus that was brought to town, I got to ride an elephant right here in the good old city of Marshalltown. I attended the Page Circus that was here. That was the second time I was out there for that. And what I very much appreciate is the fact that we have the right and liberty to choose which events we plan to do. I was a little before my time when the ashtray at the high school, because they were allowing smoking. That was closed in 92. Yes, I was quite a part of that. Got hate mail too. But now it seems like they're pushing traveling vape, smoking, all of this stuff. Goodness sakes. And I remember the 2012 when RAGBRAI was through here. We'll see what the weather will be this time when we have it. I pray everybody that's sponsored people, they have good luck and have a fun time. But I spoke to a person Saturday, and we really need a museum here, but I don't have the money to fund it. And so I would like to just remember what was here, all the things that used to be at Riverview Park that I enjoyed, all of the things that I've enjoyed. Class of 67, and I graduated college in 2005. So people think I don't know anything. Yes, I do. And thank you for your time, and thank you for speaking to me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Good evening, Council. Dennis Mowry, 1402 Brentwood Terrace. I just wanted to express my concerns regarding a recent City Council vote to paragraphs 90.001 and 90.004 of the Marshalltown Municipal Code.
Your
My,
Honor, that's on the agenda tonight. That's the animal.
Yes,
it does deal with
that.
it.
That is on the agenda. So if you'll hold your comments till then.
Till then, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Lamb, 3202 Lily Lane. In driving up and down our main street since you started the remodeling down there, I noticed it seemed to me like the new street lights, especially on the courthouse side, are awfully close to the curb. So I did some measuring, and they set 44 inches back from the front edge of the curb. I was out at Walmart the other day, and I was surprised I didn't get arrested, but I was going around measuring the back end of people's vehicles. There's vehicles that are 50-some inches from their back tire to their back bumper. If you add the trailer hitch, now you're talking close to 58 inches or more. Theoretically, because they set up high enough, they could back into a backup spot up there and tear out one of your new street lights. Or if they sit low enough, they could hit that curbing around your planters. So I just thought I'd bring it to somebody's attention. You may have to put some kind of pipe in front of the post so that the cars can't get to them or pickups. Of course, the cheapest way to do it would be if you got rid of that damn back end parking and, excuse my French, and pulled in so people could see, because when you back into a spot, I was in the garbage business for 40 years. I spent half of my life backing up. When you back into a diagonal spot like that, your main concern is those white stripes, and you're just waiting till your back tires hit the curb. Well, if you've got that extra long bed on your pickup or your vehicle, by the time you hit the curb, you've already hit the light pole. And if that light pole goes down, it takes all those string lights down, and it may eliminate all your lighting in that block until you get that pole fixed. So, and to my way of thinking, the easiest way to fix it is to go change your white stripes from this way to this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Anyone else?
Quick question. So when we were address.
Yeah,
AI
please come up.
So I don't know that I can speak on this because AI data
Um,
center, so we're going to discuss that later. We
yes.
can't discuss that now. Is that
What's your name?
Lee Hushak?
Okay, thank you. Yes, we'll be, on the regular agenda, we'll be discussing AI and data centers.
Okay, so we'll have a chance to speak then about our
Then
thoughts on
you'll
it.
have a chance to speak
Okay,
then.
all right, thanks.
You bet. Anyone else? Last call. Okay. Moving on to mayor, council, and administrator comments. Does anyone have anything?
Your Honor, I have something. I
Yes.
just wanted to give thanks to the city staff who are keeping the Center Street medians looking really good this summer. It's been really nice over the last month, and I know there's been a lot of heat given over the last few years, but the beds seem to have settled in. They look really nice, so thank you.
I believe most of that's Park and Rec staff. Yeah, good job.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I have another shout out, and whether it's to the city staff, Parks and Rec staff. Over the 4th of July weekend, I took my grandkids to the Apcar Family Water Center, and it was just a delightful place. A lot of people utilizing it, and that park as well. That whole Megaton Park was being utilized. There was a birthday party. There were bicyclists. People on the other equipment. I just wanted to thank them and the community for putting that in order. It was just a lovely addition to our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
First of all, Mr. Mowry, I want to apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But you'll have your chance to talk later in the meeting. So, and the second thing I want to talk about is, as the only veteran up here on the city council, last week the TR ran their little questionnaire, and it was, are you proud to be an American? Tagging on behind the 4th of July. And there were 75 respondents that said they were not proud to be an American. And for whatever reason, in a world where we have a volunteer military, you know, I chose to go into the military on my own. And you go in for several reasons, but you go in knowing that you could be asked to give your life for your country. So I just want to say to those 75 people, you have a right to be upset. You have a right to feel the way you do, but not to be proud to be an American. There's two things that I can't stand, and that's if somebody burns an American flag, but I was in the service protecting their rights to do that. I have a problem if people don't stand up during the national anthem. But again, I was in the service protecting their rights to live in this country to do that. So I just want to say to everybody, you can disagree, you can have your feelings towards political parties, but I do expect you to be proud to be an American. So I just wanted to say that. And Robert, stop running questions like that.
Okay, anyone else? Carol, do you have anything?
I don't, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mike, I do have one more thing. Big shout out to the committee who put on the 4th of July events. It was really nice this year. The setup down at the 6th Street Ball Diamonds worked really well, I thought. Just big kudos to everybody.
Yeah, I think the Softball Association, MFL, and Little League need to be given a big thank you because being able to use their grounds year after year and always having them as a partner for the 4th of July, it's a pretty big deal. And thank you for everyone who donated money toward it, whether that's private or corporate. Fireworks have gone up tremendously in price just the last couple years, and we had a pretty darn good show for the money. So, okay. You may.
Yes, we had the 13th Street Parade back on the 4th of July. I walked in it, and I was going to walk back and forth between the whole parade. But when I seen how many of our veterans were sitting out there watching, and if it wasn't for our veterans, we wouldn't have the 4th of July, and we wouldn't be living in a free country. So I got down to their level, and most of them was in wheelchairs, and I thanked each and every one of them for their service. And we should be thankful each and every day, not just on the 4th of July. Thank you very much.
Okay. If that's everyone, moving on to the consent agenda. Item number 7 has been taken off the agenda altogether. They're not quite ready. There's details that need to be worked out, so that will come at a later date. And with that,
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Yepes Gomez?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Mitchell?
Okay. Moving on to motions.
Motion to approve a new Class E retail alcohol license for Iowa Smoke Shop at 306 West Madison Street.
Move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Fonseca? Yes. Mitchell?
Yes,
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Yepes Gomez?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Okay, item number 2, is that a typo? No, it's not. It's for tobacco.
Yeah.
Motion number 2, please.
Motion to approve a new retail tobacco permit for Iowa Smoke Shop at 306 West Madison Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Yepes Gomez?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Mitchell?
yes,
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Okay, motion number 3.
Motion to approve a new retail device permit for the Iowa Smoke Shop at 306 West Madison Street.
Move to approve.
second,
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Is there allowed public comment on this?
Yes, come on up.
Thank you. Linda Clark, 306 South Second Avenue.
Your Honor, I don't think we voted on there. No, never mind. The motion was made and seconded. I apologize.
Go ahead.
My question is, number 3 says, a new retail device permit for Iowa Smoke Shop at 306 West Madison Street.
Mhm.
What is the retail device and permit? I've never heard of that.
That's a vape. It's electronic vape.
It's an electronic vape, something that I don't
It's
do.
different than a
actually
cigarette.
not- It's actually not a vape. It's a device is any equipment or product made in whole or part by glass or metal that is designed to use for inhaling tobacco, hemp, or other plant materials or a controlled substance. The device does not include a vapor product or a tobacco smoking
I was
product.
wrong. Yeah.
So it doesn't include that. Well, see, there's so much of that, and I see that this is the same establishment for the first 3 that's there. I haven't vaped, I haven't smoked. I'm not perfect, but it sure seems like we're going to tobacco and smoking and vaping, and let's get back to the good days in the 50s where I was happier.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Thompson?
Yes.
Yepes Gomez?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Fonseca? Yes. Mitchell?
yes,
Nichols?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Okay, motion number 4, please.
Motion to approve a 5-day Class C retail alcohol license for Midnight Ballroom LLC for a rodeo on August 8th at the Central Iowa Fairgrounds.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any questions or comments? Anyone out there? Roll call, please.
Cahill,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Yepes Gomez.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to resolution number 1.
Resolution approving the fiscal year 25 annual comprehensive financial report for the city of Marshalltown.
Move
Oh.
to approve.
You're up.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Edie and Bailey has completed the annual audit for fiscal year 25. Some of the highlights, the city is required by various state and federal regulations to publish a complete set of financial statements presented in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles and audited by a firm of licensed CPAs. The AFCR was prepared on a modified accrual basis in accordance with government accounting standards. The fiscal year 25 annual financial report, which is submitted to the state of Iowa, is done on a cash basis. Excluding component unit transfers, revenues totaled $683,593, and that's actually a decrease. I had a typo there. It is a decrease of $1,807,000. Part of that is attributed to the loss of $384,000 in automatic traffic enforcement. Expenditures decreased by amount of $2,547,842, or 4.62% from the prior fiscal year. The component units that are audited as part of this are the Marshalltown Waterworks. Not included are the Friends of Marshalltown Iowa Public Library, Inc. They are legally separate entities from the city, but their purpose is to support and promote the programs, resources, improvements, and functions of the Marshalltown Library. Since their assets are considered material, they should be shown as separate component units and their financial transactions incorporated with the city's primary government, but the Friends did not make this information available. Therefore, the city received an adverse opinion for the aggregate presentation of the financial statements. When just evaluating the city's financial statements, excluding the components units, the city received an unmodified, clean opinion for presenting the financial statements fairly. The ACFR contains various sections, but the management discussion and analysis prepared by the city finance department provided a summary of the report. Many of the tables distinguish between governmental activities and business type activities, and then also provide totals as a comparison to last fiscal year. At fiscal year end, the city's total outstanding debt was $71,989,808. General obligation debt was $52,499,808, or 48.47% of our statutory debt limit of $108,322,200. The remaining debt of $19,490,000 is revenue bonds with payments solely from the sanitary sewer fees. Capital assets before accumulated depreciation increased by $11.7 million. The increase is from major work on various street and stormwater projects and the water pollution headworks, digester, and CIPP projects. Capital assets also included various machinery and equipment such as vehicles, skid loaders, mowers, and new playground equipment. The fund balance in the general fund increased by $538,671 to $8,090,674. Of that, $7,156,913 is unrestricted. However, $3.2 million is in a cash flow reserve fund that cannot be spent without council publishing a notice of the proposed uses and holding a public hearing. Also, $151,000 is maintained for the insurance deductible reserve for the general fund assets. The capital reserves for large vehicles such as fire trucks is 121,000, and the capital reserve for building maintenance is 245,000. During the course of the auditor's engagement, they proposed material audit adjustments to the financial statements and schedule of expenditures of federal awards which were necessary in order to present accurate financial information. Staff will seek relevant training to have additional review procedures, and they, according to the staff, that they have completed most of that training, and we will not have that adverse reporting next time. You did receive a copy ahead of time. I will try to answer as many questions as I possibly can.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I may be getting more senile than I think I am, but for the public, I don't think Cole O'Donnell, our new finance director, introduced himself when he came to the podium.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So he is our new finance director, that some of you were introduced to previously. And then I think you said our revenues were 55,000. I think you meant to say 55 million.
Yeah, correct, 55 million. Yeah.
Okay, so now I had two questions for you, Cole.
Sure.
One was that cross-training, so that's been addressed. So thank you for that. The other one is on the Friends of the Library. So since this was the annual review of the year 25, we're going to have that adverse opinion at least 2 more years, 26 and 27, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, in your professional opinion, if we refuse money starting in 28 from the Friends of the Library, will that clear the adverse opinion if we refuse their money? And then obviously the answer is no, we're not going to refuse their money, however you answer that, okay? But what can we do to get them to let us audit their books so we can get this off our record?
Well, first of all, if we refuse their money, I cannot tell you if that would remove the adverse ruling. They are still collecting money for the purpose of the Marshalltown Public Library. I think the best way to maybe get them, and it wouldn't necessarily be that we audit their financials, if they could provide if they have an audit, provide their audit. And then it's not something that is made part of the document other than that the auditors will report certain numbers. They won't present the full audit of the Friends of the Library. They'll just report certain numbers, and that included in certain sections of ours.
One more question.
Yes, go ahead.
Carol, is it out of line to ask you and Cole to work with the board of the Friends of the Library to help us get this adverse opinion off our books?
We've met with Friends of the Library staff, or board members, not all the members, but some, and have not had success in doing so. I'm happy to meet with them again to talk more about what we can do to remove the adverse opinion. We haven't met since Cole's been here, so we can try that. Yeah.
I thank you. Thanks, Cole. Thanks.
In previous experience, sometimes there's a fear that if they turn over the financials, that we somehow will co-opt the money into our coffers and they wouldn't have control over it, and that's not the case. It's just a matter of being able to present accurate financial figures.
Cole, having an adverse opinion is not a good thing. How bad is it?
It's not significant, other than I think it's if a financial institution or Moody's, when we're going out for bonds, would see that, I don't think they'd give it a second thought. I think it's just one of those things in there that has to be reported, but it isn't something that in any sort of way would be something that would affect us when we come to borrowing or something like that. If we had a serious material adverse opinion or something like that, certainly that would be something to worry about.
Okay. I do agree with Counselor Thompson, it does need to be cleared up. We don't like any black marks, however small they might be.
Sure.
Okay, who else has questions? Anything from the crowd?
Linda Clark, 306 South Second Avenue, and I appreciate what he is doing. We've always wanted full transparency in everything and truth, and I very much appreciate what Mr. Thompson had said. If we had a little more transparency and truthful facts, I think a lot of longtime livers here in this community would be a lot happier. I know I would be, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for the comment, and you're welcome. And speaking to transparency, during the budget season and the document that I hope to produce, I think there'll be some more transparency, some better graphics and some analysis with that budget that I think that the council and the public will find beneficial.
That sounds good.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Hi, Cole. I do have a question about the debt. So you said that we're at 48% of the statutory debt capacity.
Correct.
So how does this compare with other Iowa communities? Or comparable communities?
Well, I can only tell from my experience of some of the other communities, or maybe a little less. I know other communities that, and this was a long time ago. So, for instance, Coralville, back when there wasn't the limitation on valuations and the levies, they basically bonded to their levy limit every year because they knew that next year their valuations would go up so much that they wouldn't be at 100%. But I can say that most communities are probably going to be around that 50%, maybe 70% on some of them, depending on what it is. I'm comfortable at around 50 to 60%. Anything above that, I get a little nervous.
Okay, sounds good. And so for the bond rating, the city maintains an AA2 bond rating?
As of the last Moody's bond rating, yes, that could change when we start looking at going out for our own debt service. They'll do another rating on us. I'm hoping that maybe we can get that to a little better rating.
Okay, so improving it. Alrighty. And then I was gonna ask you, I mean, I know you're new still, but I don't know if there are any top priorities you believe us as a council should focus on in the future.
I think that the council decides amongst themselves what the priorities are based upon maybe what they get the feedback from the community and what they'd like to see. I think that there are some challenges that we're all going to have to work on, and so the priorities might be trying to decide how to allocate the shrinking resources and what level of services we're going to be able to provide.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you, Cole.
You're welcome.
Okay, resolution approving contract. I'll let you
We
read
need
it.
to vote.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second on the table.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yepes Gomez,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Mitchell, Nichols, Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, number 2.
Resolution approving contract change order number 3 for the Center Street Viaduct Rehabilitation Project, being Iowa DOT DHM 4797629-8K64 and the city project number STR 21002, an increase of $109,050.
Move to approve. Second.
Yeah.
Good evening, Ben Dulesky, civil engineer for the city. Was just going to recommend that we withdraw this from consideration as the city plans to revise this change order to reflect the Class A deck repair. I know I mentioned it as a change order for number 4, and we're needing to get new item related to the railings for consideration at a later date. So I'm recommending we withdraw consideration.
Carol or
Question,
Lisa?
Your Honor?
Yes.
So when exactly will we have a recommendations or alternatives to select from, and who defines what the best option is?
My hope is we have some of the options, received that on Friday, but we're unable to bring that to council, but wanted to make sure we had all the information from Boulder to make sure I was giving you guys the correct numbers and timeline, because to make sure you guys have a good base to make a decision. So
you're talking next council meeting?
Yep.
Your Honor, if I may?
Yes.
I'm sorry, why can't we vote on this tonight? Why are you recommending we don't vote on this tonight? What's the real reason?
I mean, we have received pricing, but we still have some questions for them. We want to make sure we're giving you the correct 109.05, there's, we had that special council meeting there to make sure we kept at that 109,000. But I know Boulder mentioned in that meeting with the volatile steel prices, that obviously that might change. So
we could vote on this, we could vote on this change order, and then what you're really saying is there could be another change order that changes this price.
Correct.
So if we want to go with the black chain link, we can go ahead and pass this resolution tonight.
You
Correct.
can,
You
but
can.
we would be back with another change order because there's additional costs that were not captured in this original change order. So it would have to come back to council. Ben's also fulfilling the direction of council of coming back with some other options. So I think for the recommendation, it would be for the next council item, it would be presenting some options with a recommendation.
So, Your Honor, when is the viaduct really going to be open then to traffic and pedestrians?
Ben, can you answer that?
I think once they can get vehicle traffic, I know that they're finishing later this week. They'll finish the deck overlay, and then they are finishing Pier 14, and that I anticipate that to be finished probably by the end of this month. I cannot speak for timing wise on the pedestrian part of it, but the vehicle portion of it, I would anticipate we have it open by the end of, in October, we'd have vehicle traffic open. Pedestrian traffic, we'd have to, make sure we get everything figured out with Boulder on that side of things.
So question, Your Honor?
Yes.
So am I hearing that what you're proposing is that they barricade the pedestrian right away, or I'm not understanding opening that bridge and things not being done?
I guess my thought was, with our, with it being a major thoroughfare, we could have it open to vehicle traffic, but with pedestrians, with the railing, we wouldn't want, so my recommendation on that would be to, because we're wanting to get that opened up once they get the piers, that new joint in those piers, and that'll, vehicle safety wise, it will be clear to go. It would just be the pedestrian with the railing that would need to be,
Or would you be having barricades for pedestrians?
I mean, there would be some sort of barricade for pedestrians to make sure that they do not go.
Yes, you may.
How are we going to keep pedestrians from using the viaduct? The last council meeting, the representative from the construction company said that they've already cut open the barricade areas so they can walk across now. What's going to keep them from doing that in the future?
There would be a chain link, oddly enough, a chain link. Right now they have just the plastic orange fence that they're, people are using to just cut. There would be a little portion of chain link to try to, prevent them from going across, so they can't just easily
Walk around
slash.
the chain link fence and walk on the viaduct side. I think it's a liability issue we're looking at.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Yes.
And I would rather just wait 2 weeks, see what all the options are, and vote then. If you guys are ready early, call a special meeting next Monday so we can get this thing opened as soon as possible. But I think we need to look at our options.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Question, Jeff, are you making an amendment?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the motion to, I don't know how to formally make it, because if they if there's a special meeting that's required, let's have it. I suppose the tabling would be correct, to be untabled at
I
a
think
special meeting if called, otherwise in 2 weeks.
I think if you want to rescind a motion or a second, would probably do.
If you want to withdraw the item from consideration, then the person that made the motion would withdraw it. If you want to table it, you can table it until such time as staff has adequate information to return to council for a decision. I think that if that's in a special meeting, if it's in the next meeting, you could even say no later than the next meeting if you'd like.
So I believe I was the first on this one. So you're saying to make a motion to withdraw this and then make a secondary motion to lay this on the table until staff is ready?
No, I think you can just make one motion. You can table it. Yeah.
Okay. My motion would be to table this until city staff is ready.
Okay, have a motion and a second.
Is that debatable?
To table it? Let me check. No, to lay an item on the table is not debatable.
Okay, first we have to deal with that, correct? Yes. Okay, have a motion and a second to table this until the next available meeting. Roll call, please.
Fonseca? Yes. Mitchell? Nichols?
No.
Schneider?
Yes.
Thompson?
No.
Yepes Gomez?
No.
Cahill?
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay. Moving on to number 3.
A public hearing and resolution providing for the conveyance of the city's remaining interest in the vacated east-west alley right-of-way located in Block 2 of Bingham's addition to Marshall County, Iowa.
Okay, I declare this public hearing open at 6:13 p.m. Clayton.
Good evening, Clayton Ender, Assistant Director, Housing Community Development. This item comes before you. We had a request from property owner at 923 May Street, that's Camden Himes, to convey the alleyway and the rear of his property. In review of past city documents, staff had identified that the alleyway was vacated in May of 1946 and was partially conveyed to some of the owners, but the conveyance for some reason never got completed to all of the owners. So upon advice of the city attorney, we were asked to do a new conveyance public hearing, since ownerships have changed in the, 80 years since then. I have provided notice of this agenda item in this meeting to the 4 property owners that would receive portions of property conveyed to them by quit claim deed. To date, I have heard from no property owners, but they may be in attendance this evening. I do not know. With that, I'd be happy to take questions.
Do we have any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, open for public comments.
Linda Clark, 306 South Second Avenue. This has happened because there are 4 people that didn't even respond to it. I know that there have been alleys that have been vacated and then not recorded properly. And since I've lived at my address as long as I have, they never ever asked me, did I like this change or that change or whatever. But 4 people that are involved with this, and they can't come and show up and speak and say why they want it? Is it because they don't speak English? That would be my question. But they don't come and ask me. They tell me, oh, trees are fine. Trees are fine unless they crash into your property and your house. And I had that happen.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:16 p.m. I would entertain a motion.
I'd so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the council? Roll call, please.
Yepes Gomez,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Mitchell, Nichols,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to ordinances.
Ordinance 15122 to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Marshalltown, Iowa by amending Chapter 90 Animal Keeping by amending Sections 90.001, 90.003, 90.004, and 90.005 as they pertain to the keeping of domestic livestock and the keeping of poultry and domestic fowl. First reading.
I hear a motion.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Clayton.
Good evening, Clayton Ender, Assistant Director, Housing and Community Development. This is a continuation of our discussion item from your previous meeting regarding domestic livestock and animal keeping. To quickly go through this ordinance amendment, the policy changes are limited to those we discussed at our last meeting about lot area size and poultry domestic, but while I was in there, I did identify some organizational changes to improve usability of the code and consistency throughout. So I'll highlight those. First off, I did consolidate all definitions within the definition section rather than having them sprinkled within the regulations themselves. There was some minor updating of the domestic animal terminology to just stay consistent with other terms used throughout Chapter 90. Currently, it introduces some terms that are undefined, such as exotic species, whereas we do have terminology for dangerous animal with specific species listed, which would be those exotic species. So just a little more cross-reference friendly there. Did add some new definitions for domestic livestock, poultry or domestic fowl, and rabbit. Those were terms used within the code and loosely defined. Domestic livestock would include those animals previously within the domestic livestock category, such as cattle, sheep, goats, horses, mules, asses, swine, and other similar agricultural or food production animals. That's a continuation of our current code, just moving it up into definitions. Poultry or domestic fowl, currently undefined, but that would be defined as any live chicken, including roosters and hens, or any live domesticated turkey, duck, or goose, regardless of the purpose for which the bird is owned or possessed. Poultry or domestic fowl shall not be classified as domestic animals under any circumstances. That last sentence was to avoid people claiming that they're not they're not food production. They're my companion animal. I've heard that one in the past, and that's the direction seemed to be we wanted to address poultry as a pretty hard restriction there. Rabbit seems pretty self-explanatory, but we did define that, and the regulation when I was reviewing it appeared to be about rabbits kept for food production purposes rather than as companion animals. And so I just kind of provided that definition there that if they're being kept for food production, they're domestic livestock, but if they're companion, if they're a pet, they're a domestic animal. So we'd know how to treat them properly. For domestic livestock, the lot area requirement was increased from the current 2 acres to a 5 acre minimum in accordance with the motion at your last meeting. The grandfathering provisions, those were expanded. Currently, there's only a grandfathering clause for horses. This was expanded to cover all domestic livestock, as I previously addressed, so that those properties that currently have things such as cattle or sheep on that 2 acres to 5 acres, they could be grandfathered in. The burden of proof of continuous use of the property with that animal keeping is the burden of the property owner, but there is a path for them to continue if they have less than 5 acres and they currently have those animals. I briefly touched on rabbits, but just moved that. For some reason, it was listed with the chickens instead of livestock, and I'm sorry, that just kind of bugged me that it was rabbits were with birds, so I moved it up with livestock. Not really a policy change. The poultry and domestic fowl, that was an introduction of a new allowance there to allow for that keeping at starting at 5 acre lot size or larger. I did provide you a map of all parcels in the communities that are sized 5 acres or larger, and that is broken down by zoning district. And then within the staff report was the breakdown of how many parcels are in each of those zoning districts, if that's of interest to you. This is a replacement of our current zoning-based regulation of poultry and domestic fowl, which says that the keeping is prohibited on residential properties, which left open the ability for non-residential properties to keep poultry or domestic fowl. This changes us to just a area-based allowance. So all properties, regardless of zoning district, as long as they're 5 acres or larger, would be allowed to keep it. There's also a provision that roosters would be prohibited under all circumstances in accordance with the motion from last meeting. And then continued the setback requirements for poultry and domestic fowl that are consistent with the rabbit keeping, but also domestic livestock have to be kept at least 200 feet from neighboring residential dwellings, 50 feet from the street, and I believe it's 10 feet from any side or rear lot line. And then the last thing I did was just clarify that the running at large or staking provisions applied to the domestic livestock or poultry or domestic fowl sections. We do have separate provisions that cover domestic animals, including dogs and cats. There was just a little cross-referencing there that was getting a little confusing, so that just clarified that that section's about the domestic livestock and poultry and domestic fowl. That's the quick highlights of the changes there. I know that's a lot of information, so happy to go into further detail or answer questions. I do believe we have at least one member of the public that wants to address you this evening on this topic.
What about chinchillas?
I believe those would be a...
Back in the day, that was a big deal.
Aren't those pets? I don't even know what a chinchilla is, to be honest.
You'll let me know.
Okay.
Okay. That works. Okay, other questions? Up here. You may.
Yeah, Clayton, I had a hard time hearing you there for part of it. If I caught it right, that you said that the chickens would have to be, what, 200 yards from existing property owners?
200 feet from neighboring
200 feet.
residential properties.
Sorry, 200 feet. So that means they would not be able to be free roaming chickens, correct?
This is for the keeping or maintaining of the keeping or maintaining of poultry or domestic fowl enclosures. So it's about the enclosure, like the coop itself, or any type of enclosure you have. So I guess in theory, someone could free roam the whole property, but the actual coop, the enclosure, would have to be set
Okay.
back.
Thanks for the clarification.
Okay. If nobody has any questions up here, anything from the public?
I apologize for being out of order earlier, but I do want to raise some concerns about
You need to give us your name and address.
I'm sorry,
Your name and address?
Dennis Mowry, 1402 Brentwood Terrace.
Okay, go ahead.
I did want to raise some concerns about this, and I think my concerns are informed by my past experience of working as a building official for another municipality, where my responsibilities included code enforcement. In that role, I regularly attended conferences of the Iowa Association of Code Enforcement and the International Code Council. This background has led me to believe that there is a better solution to the challenge of regulating the keeping of fowl and livestock within Marshalltown city limits. Just a few years ago, a little background, I was drawn to Marshalltown because I saw it as a place to live because of its balance of rural and urban living. Since becoming a resident, I have observed the significant devastation that has been caused by the tornado and the derecho storms, and I have walked through several properties that have still or are still cluttered by the downed trees and debris from those storms. And oftentimes there's thick brush and undergrowth that has grown up on these properties, and I've been in a few places where it's just simply impassable. But I've also seen properties, some as small as 2 acres, that have benefited significantly from livestock grazing to help manage the storm debris and the growth of vegetation. I also use the bike paths on a regular basis and have seen the damage that remained along the paths until just recently when it was cleaned up. This cleanup involved some large, costly equipment that most homeowners do not possess or have the means of acquiring to help clean up a whole property. Subsequent,
Sir,
yes.
you have limited time. So
Okay.
you need to,
Okay. So, I spoke to the fire chief last fall, and he did express some concerns over burning to try to get some of this under control, and they just didn't have the equipment and means to get back into some of these places. But I did want to recommend that rather than making this a blanket for the whole city, to restrict it to the areas of agricultural, rural residential, and low density residential. And then I think that the 2 acre limit would be just fine for the fowl. And also I did speak with Kelly at Appleberry, and she did express some concern over the roosters because that would prohibit her from providing some of the service and experience to our community. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Doris Kinnick, 2020 Catalina Place. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the roosters. And I was over at Appleberry Farm on Sunday, and it was delightful. And I did hear I did hear a rooster. And roosters in that part are very important. And so if there's a way that we could, what do you want to say that? I want to say, if there was a way that the rooster could be part of Appleberry because of where she's at and what she does. So excluded, I guess, from that part of the ordinance. I don't know if that's what I'm.
You have to be careful not to spot zone.
So that's what that would be called, a spot zoning? Yeah, but she's got a rooster. She needs that. You know, birds and the bees and all that stuff. I know.
Thank you.
Good evening. David Arnold, 1710 Campbell. So we just spent the last July 4th here celebrating 250 years of life, liberty, and property. And it seems to me that this ordinance and other types of ordinances convert a right, which is eating, living your life as you wish, as long as you're not harming others, into a privilege for those that have the resources, 5 acres or more, 2 acres or more. And I think I just fundamentally disagree with that. Earlier this council passed a resolution to grant licenses for alcohol, tobacco, all of which have known harms to the public. And yet here you are trying to restrict our right to grow food, to fertilize our lawns without buying, pre-processed products. And I just don't like that. I don't think it fits with the character of the country. Many of these ordinances depend on this idea that the person who simply owns an animal is guilty until proven innocent of causing harm to their neighbors, of being noisy or whatever. And I believe that is the opposite of what our country is founded on. We are, in fact, innocent until proven guilty. The existence of such things does not create harm. And I believe we have property laws that if something does create harm, a nuisance, property damage from chickens eating your flowers or whatever, we have laws to deal with that, right? There's civil laws, there's property damage laws, vandalism laws, whatever, right? I'm not a lawyer, but I kind of get it. So I would urge this council to be very careful in kind of, we're trying to avoid the spot zoning, but I think we should be very careful in limiting this, what I'm going to call a right of being able to live as you wish, into a privilege for those just because, maybe they're more popular than me or because they have more resources. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
May a non-resident speak?
Yes.
Annie Gresham, 2125 290th Street, Melbourne. From the data I have been able to collect, of every 1,000 properties, residential properties in the city of Marshalltown, 1 to 3 fall within your 5 acres or greater limit. I think you're talking about something besides chickens here. I think you're talking about something besides livestock here. I think you're talking about a lack of equality, a lack of opportunity, and I'm just very upset about it. I'm glad I don't live in town. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Linda Clark, 306 South 2nd Avenue. With all the zoning codes and all of the things that are being changed, I was involved with legal, lawful chickens that were murdered, and it was because there were rooster fights going on in the city. Well, I no longer have any chickens, nor do I want them anymore. But I agree with the man that just spoke. My dad had a rabbit enclosure. We had all kinds of things on my property, and it's under an acre. And I agree with the man that says people with money that can have 5 acres, 2 acres, they can do whatever they want. And I was told the things that are going on in my yard, my problem. Well, I'm dealing with it. But we're getting too many codes, too many ordinances. It used to be commercial, residential, industrial, and look at now, all of the coding violations that we have because of all the code changes. We can have fire hazards according to the fire chief, and then I'm told, oh no, there's not a problem with the trees. So yes, I am upset.
Thank you, Linda.
Good evening, Nikki Aarons, 502 Hidden Hill Drive. I know that the chicken thing kind of came back up last year, and since then I've heard city council members and state that they want this or they want that when it comes to this idea of keeping chickens or things within the city ordinances. I would ask if a city council member's responsibility to the council is about what they want or about what their constituents want. City council members, have you asked your constituents if this is something they want to allow in town or if this is something they want to continue to prohibit in town? On the Facebook share of the Marshalltown Times Republican article about the last meeting with the ordinance here, there were over 100 comments, and only one of those comments made was against the change. Many were even supportive of less restriction on chickens than even the 5-acre limit. I know that the city has investigated other similar sized Iowa cities and towns and have found that overall chickens are allowed within city limits, with prohibitions on roosters, which I can understand inside town. But if other cities allow it, and that was going to be the standard by which Marshalltown tried to set ordinances, why are we still resisting this? Is there something about letting homeowners have the freedom to choose how they steward their property that is problematic? Is there something about chickens that endangers our city and its prosperity? I would ask that this ordinance be loosened rather than tightened. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Joe Darter.
Joe Darter, 2225 Main Street Road, partner with Kelly and the chicken farm. And it's Appleberry Farm, and she raises chickens. And it's pretty hard to raise chickens without a rooster or two. And it's just not chickens. She has purebred Iam Samanis and black copper Marans that you just can't go buy anyplace. You have to develop the genetics. And without a rooster, all the effort she's put out for years to get prize beautiful chickens that give you the dark brown eggs or the Easter eggs or the type of meat that she wants to deal with, and to have baby chicks for her baby days or baby duck days, I think a rooster is kind of important. I don't want unlimited amount of roosters, but consideration for some breeding stock. Otherwise, it's not a farm anymore either. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, to remind people, this is the first reading, and there will be 3 readings plus a public hearing.
Lee Hushak, 2403 New Salem Road. Our yard butts up to Appleberry Farm. It's right in the back. We love the rooster. We love the chickens. We love all the sounds that we hear. And so do our neighbors in our neighborhood. We all have discussed this. So in support of Appleberry, I think these restrictions are not needed. So thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anything from the council?
Your Honor, if I may. Your Honor.
Yes.
I now know more about chickens in the last 3 weeks than I ever thought I would know. I found out there are hens that crow. I found out that flocks without a rooster will have an HOA Karen appointed as one of the hens that will take over the leadership role in certain breeds. I have to agree with Mr. Darter and the birds and the bee talk earlier that the original talk was roosters would be noisy. And from what I have learned in the research and talking to some people that raise several different breeds, more than I thought even existed, the rooster isn't the issue of what we were trying to stop. So with that said, I would like to make an amendment to the ordinance that we allow one rooster per breed being kept onto this ordinance.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, let's deal with the amendment first. Roll call, please.
Can I ask for a clarification? What does one rooster per breed mean? So like one chicken, one rooster?
No, what I found out is there are you have several breeds of chickens, on your farm, and if you can keep the rooster away from just intermingling with the flock, you can breed certain roosters to certain breeds of chickens to accomplish what you want to do. It's producing better children. I don't know how else to say it.
If you have two different breeds of chickens, you can have one rooster per breed.
If you had
Okay.
this one of the people I talked to, they've probably got 9 or 10 different breeds of chickens out in the country. So he was explaining to me that they have 9 or 10 different roosters for a purpose. So it's all about egg development, meat development. Like I said, I know more about chickens. I'll never eat chicken again, I think. No, but I'm kidding. But I know more about chickens. So I'm willing to, I don't think the rooster's the issue that we thought it was to begin with, because what I learned about the chickens, so.
Okay, let's have roll call on the amendment.
Just wanted to note that I lost connection to the system, so I can't display the votes. Cahill.
Yes.
Fonseca.
No.
Mitchell.
No.
Nichols.
Yes.
Schneider.
No.
Thompson.
Yes.
Yepes Gomez.
Yes.
That passes.
Okay, so that passed. Now let's move back to the ordinance.
To adopt the first reading.
First reading.
And may I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
On what the ordinance itself? Where's Clayton? Did he? Oh, okay. This ordinance defines keeping of livestock.
Well, it defines what domestic livestock is and what poultry and domestic fowl are. Keeping of is, I guess we don't have a specific definition of what keeping is.
Does this ordinance prohibit someone from hiring goats to come in and mow their lawn? Can you have visiting animals? Because this was asked of me. Are we doing something that's going to prohibit someone to come in and clear their 3-acre river bottom land?
I would say it's undefined by this code currently, so I would seek direction from the council on if that's something you want to allow, and if so, we should be explicit about that.
So these changes in Chapter 90 don't define that, they don't approve it, and they don't disallow it. They don't allow it, and they don't disallow it. So that's for another day then.
Yes.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to make sure.
Okay, roll call, please.
Cahill.
Yes.
Fonseca. Yes. Mitchell. Nichols.
Yes.
Schneider.
No.
Thompson.
Yes.
Yepes Gomez.
Yes.
Okay. First reading passed. Moving on to discussion, City Hall space utilization study. Is that you, Carol?
That's me, and we have Corey Sharp here with us from FEH Design. Let me give you just a little bit of background before Corey provides us with a presentation. So you might recall that the city retained an engineering firm to study some HVAC improvement options for the original City Hall building. In the course of that study, we identified some deficiencies in the system, some aging heating and cooling systems, temperature issues with temperature and humidity controls, lack of ventilation, air, and some concerns with older cooling equipment. In that study, we had outlined 3 HVAC improvement options with varying level of cost, scope, and efficiency and construction impact, which I'll cover when Corey is done. In addition to those HVAC needs, we had a lot of other building improvements that needed to be done to the building over the next several years. Some window and door improvements, restroom updates, vestibule improvements, and some other things too. So when council talked about the HVAC study and what the options were presented, the question came up of whether or not we needed to take a more broad view of if the city should even continue to invest in the original City Hall building, and if as we currently use it, or should we consider other options. So we engage FEH Design to complete a space needs study to evaluate primarily the feasibility of relocating staff that's currently housed in the original City Hall building into the Carnegie building and the Parks and Rec Council Chambers building. So with that, I'll turn it over to Corey and he can give you a quick summary of what the study found.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Corey Sharp. I'm an architect and partner at FEH Design. We're located at 604 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. You guys are likely familiar with our firm as we've done several different projects around town. I think we're still currently working over at the library. But for the purposes of today's discussion, we're talking about the space needs study that was requested of us at your current City Hall building. We are fortunately familiar with this building. Back when it was converted from the library, we helped with the conversion into it being City Hall. So we were fortunate to have some background with the building. I also want to introduce a couple other team members as a part of our team that were a part of this study. RCE Engineering Consultants, as Carol mentioned, they were a part of the HVAC study that was done of the original City Hall building. And then Garland Construction helped us with some cost estimating associated with this study to try and help determine what, if any of these changes were to go forward, what those things might cost. So one of the first steps we did is we just kind of did a high level overview of the existing buildings. There's kind of 3 interconnected buildings, what we're referring to as the Carnegie building, the original City Hall building, and then what we call the Parks and Rec building, just internally in our design team. Initial takeaways from the 3 different buildings were that generally the Carnegie building and the Parks and Rec building were in good condition. There were some kind of aesthetic updates that might need to be made, but that generally they were in really good condition. We could consider looking at some of the accessibility things with this study, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but those are kind of the high level things that we had concerns with. And obviously the original City Hall building has numerous issues with it that could use remedied by the city if you so choose. But for the purposes of this study, we're really just focused on the Carnegie building and the Parks and Rec building. After we kind of went over a high level overview, we sat down with city staff and went over a programming exercise to determine what is the quantity of staff you have now? What is the quantity of staff you're going to need in the future? And what might those different office environments want to include? That would also include not just offices, but also amenity spaces like conference rooms and break rooms and storage areas, all those sorts of things. So we were able to put a chart together that basically issued all the different kind of spaces that we were going to need to include in the 2 spaces if we were to potentially sell off the original City Hall building. So could all these spaces fit into these 2 buildings? After our initial review of the facility, it seemed like there was some extra spaces that were available in these buildings. As I continue here, I just want to kind of orient you because we're going to start looking at plans here. So the image that's in front of you is actually the Carnegie building is here on the right. and what we're calling the Parks and Rec building is here on the left. The main entry that kind of we all came in tonight to get to our council chambers here is right here on the north, and just out of view.
Corey, can you zoom in on that a little bit so we can
Let's
see it
see.
better?
What is the trick? There we go. Just out of view here is the entrance to the original City Hall, which has that little skyway link to the Carnegie building. So just kind of orient you. And obviously this is the corner out here with the emergency exits there. So as we started getting into putting together concepts, we initially presented 3 different options to city staff. And from there, we sort of refined and refined and refined and arrived at this option that we're presenting in front of you today. So this first plan that's in front of you is actually the lower level. As part of the spatialization, one of the things we looked at was storage. There is a lot of storage mixed into these 3 buildings that are currently interconnected. And with the kind of final version of this plan, essentially the entirety of the lower level becomes all of the storage space. If you were to just take the storage you have now and move it all into one spot, it would fill up the entirety of that lower level area. Now that's without investing in what we will talk a little bit about later, is kind of high density mobile shelving, things that can really provide some efficiency for storage spaces. So that's what the lower level could result in. And also, you know, the lower level has its own concerns. It's a little bit tricky to access with the stairwell. You know, there's only one kind of central stairwell here. There's a secondary one out here to the west. But if you wanted to really make it a nice space for working, it would take a lot of investment. So it felt like a reasonable thing to utilize this for storage. On the main level, there's a lot of reorganization happening in this space. So the spaces that are in yellow here become kind of your housing and community development spaces. I should note that what happens in the center of this Carnegie space is currently there's a vacated welcome desk. Once the corner stair resulted in being sort of emergency exit only, this becoming a welcome desk sort of just became empty. So we're reimagining that space as sort of an open conference huddle space, potentially kind of break area, space where you could have informal meetings. And we're also creating kind of a presentation wall here, behind which could shield some work areas, copier space. And then back against this kind of southwest wall here, currently there is one office, but then there's open space underneath the mezzanine area, which we would also include a couple more private offices in this area, and sort of leaving the rest of that space as additional work area. So this blue highlighted area is actually a new mayoral office. And then the city clerk and city manager end up here in the northwest corner of that Carnegie space. HR sits sort of right next to those spaces, and as I said, the rest of these spaces are housing community development. So the pieces that move over from the original city hall include the city manager, city clerk, HR, and then there's also these other pink areas over here, which are finance spaces that get built out into the what we call the garage space of the Parks and Rec building. So many of the public might not be familiar, but there is a large storage space in the back of that building. Currently, they do store a lot of things back there, some of which could be stored off-site, some of which we did retain some storage shelving on the south end for some additional storage, but there's enough space back there that you could build it out into more private office area. So we've got some expanded Parks and Rec area, which is what these green shaded areas represent. We've got a couple new workstations, and then we're also building out a conference space, a private sort of conference space in this area. Currently, there's a informal meeting room back here that gets used every now and then, but there was a need to be able to have someone from the public come in this, what will be the new main entry for all of the city services, and kind of come right in the door and right into a meeting room without having to kind of traverse through all the different city spaces to get to a meeting space. So as I mentioned briefly there, We do imagine that this Parks and Rec door become the new main entry, and then you would have sort of a mix of services between accounts receivable and Parks and Rec staff that would welcome you at this new welcome desk. That new welcome desk would be fitted with attack rated, ballistic rated kind of glazing systems that are becoming more commonplace in today's city hall designs. And then the vestibule space would basically be expanded to allow for public access back to these restrooms. Currently, I think we have to kind of prop the door open in order to allow people back here. So we're sort of just expanding this area to be able to get back to the elevator, drinking fountain, restroom areas here. I'm going to continue upward here into the upper level. All of us currently are sitting in the council chambers in this room. But just to the east of that is the upper level of the Carnegie space, which holds most of the engineering and public works spaces, kind of currently up in this northwest corner. And currently in this southeast corner, there's a lot of open workspaces for printing and layout spaces, things like that. And kind of generally this mezzanine area is relatively unused. There are a couple workstations in that area, but it felt a little disconnected. So in this new layout, we're just kind of including some additional workstations that are kind of moving from the mezzanine up into this formal meeting area, and then utilizing this mezzanine space for all that printing layout kind of spaces. As part of these changes and as part of the main level remodeling, we are planning on removing that small little switchback stair that's here. It is not code compliant. It would be very difficult to make it code compliant, and it does basically end up sort of in the way. It's not required for egress, for exiting of any of these spaces. So we felt that it might actually help some of the circulation in all these different spaces to actually remove it. We do have plans to retain the existing railing that's there and try and supplement it with some additional millwork to make it code compliant to be the right height. So we are retaining a little bit of that character of that railing up there, but we are removing the staircase in the process of this project. And then we do have a couple more housing and community development offices up here for building inspectors, plans reviewers, and then nuisance and parking up in this area as well. I should also mention, as part of these plans, one of the things that came to light was that this current room that we are all sitting in has one main exit door, that double door in the corner there. And then the second exit door actually goes through a meeting room. This door out here with the exit sign above it. That's really not kosher with our building code in today's form. So one of the things that we're proposing to help with that particular issue in this room is to actually put a door in the exterior wall back here and build a stair outside the building that would end up down kind of near the pickleball court out back here, so that we can get kind of two true emergency exits out of this room if for whatever reason all of us needed to leave in a hurry. There were some other considerations made during this process. Most of them had to do with stairwells. I did mention the one kind of millwork sort of switchback stair that happens in the middle. The other one is what we're calling the octagonal stair in the Carnegie building. That particular stairway has some issues with how you traverse up and down it with the different handrails that are associated with it. We met with Veenstra and Kim, a member from Veenstra and Kim, their code compliance department, plan reviewer department, on kind of the best way to attack that existing stairwell. There are some exceptions in the existing building code that allow us to just kind of add on some additional handrails to what's currently constructed, and we would find that that would be completely code compliant with the existing building code. So that was really good. And then there were some mechanical, electrical, plumbing things that are going to go along with some of these proposed changes that would be upgrading some of the furnaces in that octagonal stair. You'll notice in the summertime, it's very hot in there, that we could upgrade the HVAC in that space and make it more comfortable in there. And then as part of the rest of the remodeling efforts, we would have some upgrades to some of the HVAC diffusers, some of the lighting, and then in our Parks and Rec garage area that we're adding offices to, we would need a new furnace in that space just because we would end up having more people working back there. And then the third thing I want to mention here is high density mobile storage, which we did look at and got quotes for if we wanted to include that on top of the construction figures in this for including storage in the lower level to give you a little bit more space rather than filling it all up on day one. Last little bit I want to touch on is construction phasing, because you might be asking, okay, this is all great. If it works, how does this look like in reality if we were to remodel these spaces? And what we would propose as part of this study is that you complete this in phases. You could do this project all at once and move all of your city staff into the old city hall, but you would have pretty big problems with accessibility. You'd have pretty big problems with moving your staff into a space that does have ACM, does have hazardous materials in it that you'd be working in. You're not currently working in a lot of those spaces because they're in vacated upper floors, but you'd have to occupy basically that entire building with all of your staff if you wanted to do this at one time. So we're proposing it happens in phases. So you would basically move some of your staff into one part of the building while one part of the building gets worked on, and then you would sort of flip-flop and you would work on the other part, and then once it's all finished, then the staff from the original city hall could move into the rest of the spaces. And then the last part of this study was imagining what could happen with the original city hall if you were to move out of it and into these two buildings. There's some really good things about it, and then there's some disadvantages to it. So some of the really good things about it is that it's been the historic character of the building has been kept in good condition. You have wonderful terrazzo floors. The signage throughout the building is great. You've got great plaster walls, ceiling moldings, all sorts of amenities in the space that could be really valuable to a potential new buyer. But as I mentioned, there are some disadvantages. You obviously have an aging HVAC system that needs attention. We assume that if you were to sell the building, that you would not invest in a new HVAC system, that the new buyer would then have a bit of flexibility to choose what kind of system they would want to incorporate into the building. But then the new buyer, we imagine, could also be someone that's familiar with the historic tax credit program. That's not something that you as a municipality are eligible for, but a private buyer would be eligible for. They would be able to receive a lot of money in grants in order to basically remedy some of these issues, such as the hazardous materials, and then upgrading some of the historic elements throughout the building. One of the main kind of code concerns we have with the existing building is that there's only one stairwell. A building of that size normally would be outfitted with 2 stairwells, and since it only has one, you can only have so many people in the building. So whoever the new buyer would be would have to have a pretty low occupant load on all of the floors. So after reviewing all those different things, what we would propose or what we imagine kind of a ideal buyer would be someone that might build it out into sort of low occupant, kind of artist suites or business suites or hospitality spaces, things of that nature that wouldn't have large assembly spaces, such as a room like this, where you would have to figure out a way to incorporate more accessibility throughout the different levels. So that's a high level overview as to the things that we looked at. But I think in general, what we're saying is if you wanted to invest in this, in trying to move all your staff into these 2 buildings, we imagine a construction cost of between $985,000 and $1.1 million. Those are inclusive of some alternates that give you a little bit of flexibility as to things you would want to include in the project and things you wouldn't. There are a number of pages in this report if you wanted to go through the appendix to figure out what does that number include. Generally, that number includes if we want to add offices in particular spaces, we're not like full scale renovating all 2 floors of both buildings, top to bottom. It's trying to figure out the most cost effective way to get new office spaces, more office spaces into these buildings. So as you look at that number and you compare it to the investment that might need to be made at the original city hall to upgrade the HVAC, something to consider. I should add the very last page of this report, and you can see here, there's lots of drawings, there's construction estimates, there's narratives. This last page details the the high density mobile storage. This number is not included in that 985 to 1.1 million. This would be in addition to that. And this is a fully powered motorized system that sort of would allow for your storage system to get installed in there. And 'cause we're sort of looking at it like a furniture piece. That's why we didn't include it in the construction estimate. But we do imagine that this could be another near $185,000 to get included into this budget in the lower level. I just want to make that clarification. I would happily take any questions that you all might have.
Your Honor, I have one.
Yes.
The record storage, is the lower level the best place? I mean, is there any chance of it getting wet or records being ruined by some natural disaster or something like that in the basement?
I think you might have that same fear if the roof were to leak and come down on the second level. Is the risk greater in the basement? Maybe, just because you're also dealing with groundwater that could come upward. But as far as storage goes, we feel like it's the most appropriate place to put it in this building, given all the other alternatives.
Other questions? Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, great idea. I have a question about what we do with the Carnegie building until it gets sold as far as heating to keep pipes from breaking. What is the status for that?
You want me to respond to that?
Sure, if you
Okay,
want to.
I'll do my best and I'll let you sum it
Yeah,
up.
go ahead, Carol.
I mean, I think what's happening right now is you guys are kind of limping by and you're maintaining it as best you can while you still occupy it. I would imagine that that would be the plan until any of this work gets completed.
Yep, I think that's a good answer. Yep.
Just to clarify, Mark, I think you meant the City Hall building.
Yeah.
That would be the one.
Thank you, Jeff.
The city hall building. Heating that in the wintertime until it gets sold, if it gets sold.
Yeah, I think unfortunately the answer would be I think you do your best as kind of you have been with the status quo to try and maintain it as best you can and get it to limp along until you are able to make a decision on which direction you want to go with the options that are in front of you.
Keep it going.
I mean, the one benefit that you could foresee if you decided to replace the heating units in there, if you were even ultimately going to sell it, is that then you could potentially get that value back out of it when you do sell it.
Would you mind pulling up the slide? I had a slide up there showing the different costs.
I can.
Or can you do it? Okay. Well, first, I guess if council has any other questions of Corey.
I do have one, Your Honor.
Yes, go ahead.
Question. You talked about that this could be done in phases. What's an overall timeline that you're looking at from start to finish?
I think when we were visiting with the contractor, they were imagining anywhere from 6 to 8 months per phase. Per phase, and every 2 phases. Yep. Some of that's relative to once one phase is complete, how quickly a transition could be made into the next one.
Your Honor, do you have
Yes.
a question? For the corner entrance over there, so that would be closed to the public and it would just, or what would happen with that corner?
It would stay as is. So currently that corner entrance is a emergency exit only.
Okay.
So you can't just like walk up into that door currently because it's not accessible. So the most accessible way is to come in the Parks and Rec entrance, but you could still exit out of it in an emergency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I do have a question. How long does the current HVAC system have left in it? I mean,
I don't know if I could answer that question. It might be in the previous report though.
I don't know. I don't know if Heather knows. She has any information about the life of the current system, but
in other words, is it limping along or is
it's limping along. I know that, but
or is it heading to the graveyard?
Heather Thomas, Public Works. That is putting it mildly. The shared boiler right now, between YSS and City Hall. We are continuing to repair it. I believe this past year we had roughly $10,000 of repairs on it. So we're continuing to invest in it at this time to limp it along. You know, there could be a point, unknown, knock on wood, that does have an issue that is more costly, and we're not talking 10,000. We're talking we have to replace it at that point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes, you may.
This question, Corey, is probably getting a little ahead of where we really need to be tonight, but, and I'm not sure you can answer this. Let's say we do this, we move everything over here, we're here lock, stock, and barrel. Can that building be separated from YSS completely? Can those Siamese twins be cut off when we do sell it?
I
Or is there
assume-
going to be an issue with YSS?
I assume there's like a mutual easement in place in order to provide the accessible access between those two buildings that's already in place that the city likely would have made.
I'm sure there is something along
So
that, but I physically, can they be separated?
I'm sure they could. I don't know if you'd want them to be because they're providing that accessibility between the floors with the elevator.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor?
Yes.
What will be the funding for all of the options? Where is it going to come from?
We have a
Where will it come
small
from?
amount of money in the capital plan. I think it's 150,000. We have already designated for a boiler replacement. We would need to bond for any of these options that are presented, even if we went with one of the HVAC options. If we wanted to do the window and door replacement to the other improvements that are needed. The space needs concept, there's a state law that says if you're bonding for a general corporate purpose, it's subject to what's called a reverse referendum up to a certain threshold. That threshold is about $1 million. So the space to go with us moving into the Carnegie building and the Parks and Rec building may require a public vote. It would depend on if we had other funds that we could use to sort of buy down the overall cost of that option. But you would be looking at bonding for any of these.
Yeah, I should clarify the estimates that we have in front of you are hard construction costs. So they wouldn't include soft costs associated with design and permitting and furnishings and all the other things that go with a full-scale project like this.
Yes, you may.
Yes, where does YSS sit on this HVAC system? Are they going to be a part of the payment plan, or are we going to just put it in and they're going to use it?
I don't think we've discussed YSS and whether they would do a cost share. Heather must have an answer for it. Hold on just a minute.
Going back almost a year ago, I believe, when we presented the HVAC concepts, that concept was separating the two spaces. So the existing space would continue to serve the YSS building. And yes, YSS is aware that we were having these discussions about this system being dedicated to their building. And then the system that would be the city's system would be installed in our facility. So it's not that they're cost sharing any of this HVAC improvements for City Hall with us. It's that we are separating those services that were not separated at the time that YSS and the police department switched over to YSS at that building.
Question?
System.
In the future, that would be something that they would need to address, yes.
Okay, thanks, Heather.
No question. Basically, it'd be their responsibility to nurse that existing system until it dies.
That is correct.
Any other questions?
Your Honor, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Carol, tell me that threshold again to keep it out of a reverse referendum.
It's roughly $1 million. I want to say it's like 970,000 is the threshold.
Okay, then if we did that, I'm playing devil's advocate for both sides here. If we kept it under that threshold, so we would basically have to pull some of the stuff out and do separate projects. Is that legal or is that a little shady?
Cole's going to come up and
That would be a little shady. Yeah, Oh, I'm sorry, Cole O'Donnell, Finance Director. I'm still getting used to the protocol. So, what it is you could try to, bond in this year for a certain amount and bond in another year for a certain amount. But I think that somebody would call that into question. Yeah, and the threshold is actually, I think around 980, 985. They did adjust that a couple of years back. It might even change in this upcoming year because they do adjust it based upon economics and other things. So that could change. So if having done this before, you'd bond out to you'd probably want to go a little less than what the threshold is. That is subject to a reverse referendum, and then you find additional monies to go into to make up the difference, as Carol stated. So,
And Corey, so your estimates doesn't include furniture or anything like that. It's just the hard build out.
Right. These are the construction costs. Yes.
So the slide that's showing now shows kind of their planning estimates, but a comparison of the 3 HVAC options that includes the $300,000 in additional window door replacements and other improvements compared to these hard costs for relocating out of City Hall. So just looking for some direction from council. Do you want us to continue planning for reinvestment in the City Hall building? If we do, which level of improvements would council support? Maybe you can't answer that tonight. That's okay. We can come back with something more specific about that. And then do you want us to continue evaluating the costs associated with relocation from City Hall into the Carnegie and Parks and Rec buildings?
Question.
Go ahead.
So, Cole, this might be a question for you. Would the old City Hall versus updating Carnegie Hall be two different bonds, or is it all in one?
Cole O'Donnell, Finance Director. You could consider those two different projects, I believe, if you wanted to update the system at the current City Hall. That could be, in my opinion, though I would ask an attorney to make sure, you could consider them two separate projects.
But Carol, I think in order to answer your question, I would need to know what would it cost to stabilize the current City Hall building and what would the operational expenses of that be going forward versus investing all this capital in this building to reduce to one. So I think to go further, I would want to see that information. Like what is the status quo plus what we have to do to make the other building operational?
So question, Jeff, you talking about replacing the boiler so that it's not ready to blow up at any point?
Yeah, as best I can tell and through previous conversations, it sounds to me like that's a prerequisite if we were to keep staff there. And I wonder if that isn't a cheaper overall option than doing this full redesign, because like we've talked about, this doesn't even include furniture, which I know is a pretty decent adder on these projects.
Well, that would assume that you upgraded all your furniture too. Wouldn't necessarily have to.
I noticed that all the HVAC options also include $300,000 in additional anticipated building improvements, windows, doors, restrooms, and so forth. Any of the HVAC options include that?
It's the $300,000 on top of that, some of the things that we talked about. I'd have to get a little bit more detail. I can come back with some more detail about specifically, because the building, just as speaking as a building occupant, it does need some improvements to continue to reside in that building. I don't know if the dollars that we've presented here are completely inclusive of those needs. We could certainly take another look at that and make sure we bring back a number to council that accurately reflects what some of those needs are. And the operational costs. Yeah, and the operational costs. Okay.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
I agree with Councilman Schneider. I'd like to see even some more information. And then I'm thinking that the public can donate window air conditioners and space heaters. Or if someone wants to give us a couple mini splits, we'll take those too. So, but yeah, we need this is a great, no offense, this is a great start, but this is a lot of money no matter what we do. We need some more concrete information moving forward, in my opinion.
Okay. So specifically on the three, what would the cost of the three HVAC options be with some of this additional work that needs to be done in City Hall? Is that what I'm understanding, and what the ongoing operational costs might be?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your Honor,
Yes.
one other question. I don't know if anyone can say this. Do we have any idea of what the value of the current City Hall is? So if we were to go put the money in here, any idea of what that building would go for in a sale?
Yeah, as part of our process, we didn't perform an appraisal, but that would be something that could be done in order to determine what the value would be.
Because I do think, along with the HVAC, in my opinion, the building improvements like the windows, doors, and restrooms are really important. The women's bathroom downstairs is bad.
Beacon,
Actually, I do.
if you look at the assessor's website, it's assessed at 1.5 million. 24 North Center Street. I don't know if that's just, it's lists 24 North Center. I don't know if they've included the City Hall or the Parks and Rec building and the Carnegie building in that, but that's what's listed for this address.
So, Cole Donald, City Finance Director, to the question of what could be the building could be, given the fact that that anybody that bought it would have to remove the asbestos and upgrade the systems and everything else, it's going to be what they think they can offer, plus any possible grants and the money they can come up with in order to get to it. I would assume that we would be selling it less than what it would be for market value if it was already updated.
One more question, if I may.
Yes, you may.
To cut down the needs of heating and cooling in that building, what do we have? We have 5 people? Oh, no, we have finance over there too. So never mind. I was going to ask relocating some people if we had room in this building, but never mind.
Okay. Is everyone good with Carol bringing back more specific information to us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone from the crowd have anything?
David Arnold, 1710 Campbell. Just as a clarification on this whole referendum thing, is that both hard and soft costs? That's probably more to him, but like, what's all included in this, like, 1 million threshold?
Well, if the total project cost
It's total
exceeds
project
a certain
cost.
amount.
Right.
So hard,
Yeah,
hard
yeah.
soft.
I mean, if
costs out.
if we're bonding for that, if we're not using existing funds.
Thanks.
Okay. You have direction?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to data center regulations. Clayton.
Good evening again. Clayton Ender, Assistant Director, Housing and Community Development. We did discuss at your last meeting a potential data center moratorium that did not receive majority support. And the City Council, as you might recall, you did move forward a motion to direct staff to work with the city's economic development team to establish a process to require future data centers to enter in development agreements with City Council. Following that meeting, we have consulted with the city attorney and to determine legal and procedural mechanisms to implement such a motion. And it was determined that we don't really have a codified mechanism in place to establish that currently, and it would potentially be problematic to enforce such a thing. So in light of those legal concerns, and we also had a motion that failed to refer this to Planning and Zoning Commission. We had some conflicting information. That's why it's back in front of us tonight. So I did put together a kind of a how-to, I don't know if I want to call it how-to, a fact sheet on how we currently regulate data centers and some of the best practices that I was able to find. It's probably not all-inclusive to the topic. It is a very hot-button topic, but it's a starting point. But I wanted to kind of quickly go over how we currently regulate them, just to maybe set a baseline for everyone. Data centers, they're currently an unlisted use within our zoning code, and as such, that responsibility falls to me as your zoning administrator to determine if it's a comparable use to others within our zoning code and to determine regulation. In my review, I have determined that a data center would be classified as a major utility under our current zoning code. This is a use that is not permitted by right within any zoning district, nor is it prohibited in any zoning district. So it's eligible for consideration in all zoning districts of the city. But that is subject to special use permit. The process for a special use permit, it starts with a staff review. I make a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, who does review and recommendation, and then their recommendation gets forwarded to the Board of Adjustment, who has final decision-making authority on that. At no point does an application require coming before the City Council unless they request tax incentives or financial incentives from the council. To have a means to have it come before the council would require zoning changes to create such a pathway. But we do have to be careful that it doesn't become arbitrary and capricious, that we're not just targeting a single user, whereas everyone else is treated differently.
Clayton, would data centers have to come in front of us, or it would be back in front of the city council if we were going to be annexing property into the city?
Annexations would be subject to city council approval. Rezonings would be subject to city council approval. But provided an annexation is not required, provided a rezoning is not required, they would not be required to come before city council.
But the city council can set our guidelines for planning and zoning, correct?
Yes, if you establish standards for data centers, we can apply those.
Yes.
At present, they would be applied based on the major utility land use. But it would certainly be within your prerogative to legislate those standards. We do that with other land uses as well. So that is not uncommon, but that is something that would have to be amended within the zoning code. So that's the general standard. I'm not going to go through the whole fact sheet I put together, but I did highlight some of the top things, and we do regulate some of the hot button topics such as noise, vibration, setbacks currently. But I could dive into those in greater detail if need arises. But I'll keep my comments brief at that at the moment. We are just seeking direction from City Council on how you wish to proceed, considering the previous direction is facing some legal challenges there.
Your Honor, I do have a motion, but I wanted to let everybody else speak first and then the public, and then I'll make it.
Okay.
Can I take a grab at it, Mr. Mayor? Yeah?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I started this discussion last time, and really it just came down to just not having any surprises with data centers. It's been happening across the country, just the citizens just being surprised of, new data center construction. The thing that I'm most wanting out of, I guess, like local government is for us to be protected from excessive power usage. Also, I know there's potentially, depending on the kind of direction we go today, City Council might not even talk about data centers anymore because just the order of it goes to zoning administrator, then planning and zoning, and then board of adjustments. That's pretty much it. So there's a possibility it will never get touched here again. So I'm with Melissa. I think I have my own motions, but really what I'm looking for today is if there's any appetite for like a 3-month moratorium, send it into planning and zoning, explore, megawatt usage or something like that. I really like to point out to Cedar Rapids as a prime example of to why we need limitations on power usage. They use 1 gigawatts of power for one of their companies. That's pretty insane. That's more than what Marshalltown uses. So I just think that's kind of crazy. I don't, but yeah, I'll just leave it at that. That's my general comments. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, and this is really ironic. Addressed at the last city council meeting, and this, no pun intended, but this is a very hot subject all over. This afternoon down here in Florida, the discussion on data centers come up. They're environmentally damaging, overusage of water, which I know we have good water, but we need to keep that water there for our people in our community. So we really need to look at that's a hard situation, because it's not only damaging to people, but it chases lives, animals away from their natural areas. And I know that's a pretty big thing in Iowa is all the animals out there that are in the environment. So we really need to keep that under consideration, as well as the health and well-being of our own people. So we really need, like Marco said, we need to do a lot more research on this and see what the pros and cons are. The last meeting, they said there wasn't going to be very many people employed there. Most of the money was going to come during build. So we really need to think about, is this really beneficial to Marshalltown as a whole? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Your Honor, if I may.
Go ahead.
I think most people are in general agreement. This council, future councils, as representatives of the citizens, they want some say in what happens. So, Clayton, could you explain what you could do to keep this in front of a council, and how much time you would need? You and Mr. Boston come up with a plan. How would you regulate this? How much time would you need to come back to us with a viable planning and zoning change?
Yes. So process-wise, this would be a zoning text amendment. Procedurally, that would require a review and recommendation by your Planning and Zoning Commission, and then consideration by the City Council on 3 separate readings by ordinance. If we were to just go as quick as possible, expedite, we're looking at 2 months minimum. Realistically, you're going to want to include a public engagement element. This is a very important topic to our community. So if we add in some public engagement, I would recommend a minimum 3 to 4 months. But we could certainly get this accomplished in 6 months or less.
So you feel confident you can have a viable, well thought out, researched idea, a plan, and come back to us in 3 months?
That will be putting it a little fast there. I would prefer 4 months, but certainly within 6 months.
And then in the meantime, whatever, if we go that route, in the meantime, if anybody comes to the city with a request, it's going to go through the process that avoids the city council. What's in place right now?
Yeah. If we do not establish a moratorium, the applications would be reviewed under the regulations in place at the time they submit such an application. And the alternative, the city council could consider a moratorium, which would then hit the pause button on processing of any applications. I would leave that to the city council's discretion on whether or not, which path you want to proceed down. I could accommodate either.
In short of that word, there's nothing else we can do to pause it.
Not that I'm aware of.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Why does it take 3 months? I mean, these projects are done everywhere, all over the country, all the time. And I hear all about these people who have these horror stories. I see success stories everywhere. Why does it take 3 months in order to come up with the language that we want in our zoning ordinance?
It's all about the state code required timelines we have to do for notices. We have to do a public hearing with Planning and Zoning Commission. We have to provide a minimum 4 days, no more than 20 days notice of such a hearing. We have to then set a public hearing by city council that takes resolution. We have to then hold 3 readings by ordinance of city council, one of which must be a public hearing, again with notice. So when you start to stack up all those notification requirements as required by state law, that's where you get you to the 2-month minimum. 3 to 4 months just builds in some time for some additional public engagement activities that could occur. Those are not required activities. Those would be add-ons if the council wanted to proceed down that path.
I would encourage as fast of a timeline as possible. I mean, these projects do line up. You have to strike while the iron's hot. I really don't want to see a huge delay in this.
Your Honor.
Yes.
If I may, excuse me. I know even as Councilor Mitchell talked about in Florida, the discussion was leading to items that it harms animals, and a number of things. I guess that I would encourage whatever we go to, we have got to find the right information. I do hear horror stories from people, but some of the research I have done shows that not all of that is the reality. It may have been when they started the use of so much water and all, but the closed systems have definitely cut down on that. So I guess I want to say, make sure we're looking at the pros and the cons of both and using very legitimate sources to put that out, because I think a lot of their initial visions are based on, I'm not sure it's the factual information. It's more of a feel of what people, what they've heard and the worst case scenarios.
Absolutely. It still is a relatively new technology in its current form. Data centers themselves are not necessarily new. We've been processing data as long as we've had computers and had space needs for that. But I think where a lot of the fears arise, and I can't speak for everyone, but my perception is on the hyperscale data centers that take up thousands of acres for a single user. So we have the spectrum of data centers. Our server room back there, someone could say is a data center because it processes data. I think we'd probably all agree that's not a data center. But then you also have more towards the mid-range, which is considered co-location facilities. Developer builds the building and then leases out space within it for users to put their servers and equipment. You may have multiple users within a single building. And then on that extreme end is that hyperscale, single user taking up multiple buildings. Think Microsoft, Apple, Meta. Those type of facilities are more towards that hyperscale facility.
How would you categorize them? Is it by megawatts?
I've seen different methods, square footage of building, megawattage. I think we'd have our options there. I haven't seen like everyone agrees on this threshold yet. The jury's still out. But we do have the benefit of we are not the first community to address this issue, so we can look at other communities. Lynn County, for example, has adopted a data center ordinance that is considered one of the most strict in the nation. Otherwise, we're looking out of state. Virginia has a lot of examples that we can lean into for zoning. So we don't have to necessarily invent everything from scratch, but we still also are on probably the front end of this regulation talk.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Can we hear from Mr. Boston from the Planning and Zoning Board, his opinion? Is that appropriate?
I believe so.
John Boston, 1710 Rainbow Drive, current chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's our intention to put this subject on the August meeting for planning and zoning. We don't even need a recommendation from City Council. We can basically put anything on our agenda we want at any time, because as you know, whatever we approve comes to you guys for approval. In the past, we've had hot topics that come up, and instead of meeting once a month, we meet every 2 weeks. We can do that again and accelerate this process somewhat. But as Clayton says, you still have public notices, public hearing. You want to hear from the public on something like this. This isn't dissimilar to what we got into with cell phone towers years ago, and people, don't put them in my neighborhood. When we first started out with electronic signs, we limited them to one per city block. Now it's basically open because everybody's gotten used to them. I think there's a little bit of a learning curve on data centers, but like Clayton says, there's already been a lot of code and a lot of research done that we can take advantage of. We can, Clayton's information, we've got fringe control, but I want to go into the city zoning ordinance and, specify a data center, define it, what use, put it in the use table for what zoning areas is it allowed in, probably commercial only. But, that's up to the 7 members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I don't know if that helps any or not, but.
Your Honor, may I ask John a question?
Yes.
John, are you comfortable with the 4-month window? Do you agree with Clayton?
I think we can speed that up. I mean, as far as if it's a 4 months for planning and zoning, that's the whole thing. But we can go to a 2-week schedule, and
But yeah, if you
we
guys,
don't have to wait till the regular meeting in August. I can schedule. We
I'm
can
just
have a
saying,
special meeting two weeks from now.
if we gave you 4 months to come back to us and you guys beat that, we're not going to make you sit at the door and wait.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So.
John, in the zoning ordinances that it comes to you, Clayton gave us a whole list of best practices, land use review.
We go through every bit of that.
That's exactly what I'm asking.
And I've already asked my
with
son.
things like, if you're a heavy water user, get lost.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
We
kinda-
can put it
and
right
as-
in the zoning ordinance that you have to have a closed cooling system.
Yes.
And
I wouldn't have a problem with that either.
we could check with legal and say that, are we allowed to specify that you have to have a development agreement with city council?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe the lawyer says yes, maybe they say no. I have
Right.
no idea.
I'm not sure if we can pick out a developer's agreement with data centers alone. I think that might be viewed negatively. But I do agree moving along quickly. But the list that, and I'm sure you've seen this, closed loop systems, I see what most people have been commenting on, and they're going to use all the water. Well, with closed loop systems, they don't hardly use any water. Bathroom sinks, that kind of thing. Electric usage, in talking with Alliant, they feel that they're very good and would not, and we can have them speak to it at a future council meeting, and would actually help them in keeping electricity rates stable instead of ramping up and ramping down, which that ramping up and ramping down comes down to on your bills every time they do that, where if they have a constant electricity use, then they're not ramping up and ramping down. So, but there's so many other things here. The setbacks.
Buffering.
Yeah,
all
buffering.
those topics.
I believe Clayton, correct me if I'm wrong, it has to be at 55 decibels at the lot line. What you were looking at?
Yeah, it's measured at the receiving property.
Right.
Where we
And
measured
what,
at. It's
what
at the,
55 decibels is, just so everyone knows, that's the normal decibel of 2 people talking to each other. Okay.
I believe that is the night.
If you're going to have fan cooled, you might as well forget about even coming. But all those kind of things that can be handled at planning and zoning.
I believe so.
And those changes would come back to city council.
Yes. As you know, you usually have 3 readings on
Yes.
anything we send to you.
Okay.
And we've made a lot of changes in the last couple of years and sent to you, so.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you guys cover that kind of stuff, I think that's a good way to move.
Okay.
The only thing I would like to mention is that in that attachment, there was no power limitation on it. Again, there's a close town an hour away east, Cedar Rapids, that has a company using 1 gigawatts of power. That's a lot of power. And yeah, we can point out to like water usage and all that and conflate the history of data centers with what's going on this decade and say, you know, there's a bunch of misinformation. But the reality is there are some data centers, the hyperscale ones, that are taking a bunch of power, and it's not a responsible use of resources. So I really do think the main point of zoning, I really think the focus is going to be categorizing these data centers and seeing which ones we don't want in our community.
So, Your Honor?
Yes.
So I'm not so much worried about power usage as making sure that any infrastructure cost or extra generation cost does not go on to us end consumers. And if we can reduce cost by having an even load, I think that's a plus. I want to make sure the power is available, that it's not going to cost us extra to put more in place. But as far as if they've got the capacity, I don't see the risk.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I will go ahead and make my motion.
Okay.
Okay. So I move to direct staff. Hearing everybody, this is kind of a combination of things that, I mean, I wrote this before I even got here, so I'm actually happy that a lot of the comments here kind of touch on this. So I move to direct staff in consultation with the city attorney, the Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Team, to prepare amendments to the Marshalltown zoning ordinance establishing regulations specific to data center development, and to return those proposed amendments to the City Council for review and consideration. So the proposed ordinance should include a definition and land use classification for data centers, appropriate zoning districts where data centers may be considered, data center specific special use permit review criteria, standards for infrastructure capacity, including electrical service, water, sanitary sewer, transportation access, and utility impact studies when appropriate. I used Clayton's fact sheet. So minimum setbacks, buffering, landscaping, screening, and lighting requirements, noise, vibration, generator operation, and air quality standards, stormwater management and environmental performance standards, architectural site design requirements, emergency access and public safety considerations, criteria for development agreements where legally authorized, including coordination with the Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Team, and any additional standards staff determines are necessary to address the unique impacts of data center development. Example, public engagement component. So this proposed amendment to the code is to establish standards that provide guidance to applicants, city staff, planning and zoning, the Board of Adjustments, and the City Council when reviewing future data center proposals. We will then be protecting public infrastructure and promoting compatibility and staying aligned with the city's long-term planning objectives, and also the health and safety and welfare of our community. That's my motion.
That's a long amendment.
I know. It was, it's like 5 minutes.
Clarification on that. What's your timetable?
So that's the thing. Clayton said it would take about 3 or 4 months, maybe 6, with the public engagement component. So if 4, okay. I mean, it doesn't matter as long as it takes for city staff to do it. So, and I don't know if it makes sense to do a moratorium until the third and final reading, then I would add that. But if not, then the beginning part. Any questions?
Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, that's another issue that has been brought up is the electrical use of the data centers. And in the other states that this has been going on in, they've always
Your
been
Honor,
putting in
Your Honor,
extra.
you got to have a second before we
I
can
gotta have a
discuss.
second on this. Anybody?
I didn't get everything. It was a lot. I don't know. I guess could you repeat it? Is she allowed to repeat it?
Repeat all of it?
It's a lot,
It-
yes.
Okay. A definition and land use classification for data center. So Clayton's fact sheet, and he actually printed it off for us. So let's get on that
It's
one.
this right here.
Okay. Okay. So I'll just do, okay. So I move to direct city staff in consultation with the city attorney, the chamber, economic development team to prepare amendments to the Marshalltown zoning ordinance, establishing regulations specific to data center development.
I would second that.
Okay. Mark, did you have anything else?
Yes. In regards of the electric use in the states that have been forced into having it, the electrical people have raised their prices because it had to have more electrical plants up and running. And Marshalltown is planning on putting an extra electrical plant in. And it appears it's the same situation as the rest of the states, that they're bringing this in and then bringing the data center in on top of it. This is a hot topic down here in Florida and also on the West Coast coming this way. And that's one reason why the data centers are being pushed this way. So we really don't need to have a data center that's going to be increasing our utility bills just to let a data center come in and not generating any money for the city.
Okay.
Your Honor?
Yes.
So first of all, let's talk about and define what a data center is. So basically, for a data center, Fisher Emerson had a data center. Is that white building on 12th Avenue? Basically, you're not going to do any banking, any business, any software as a service, any web stuff. You don't get paid, no point of sale without a data center. They all rely on data centers. Now, if we're talking about this, the concern is artificial intelligence and how the hyperscaling. But even companies like Chase Bank is outsourcing, is now putting some of their servers in Google and AWS because it's more cost efficient and saves money. And right now, Chase has a 400 square foot building, and that's not considered a hyperscale. That's just evolved over time. So we need to have a definition of what a data center is and understand that 75 to 85% of all uses of data centers is for business and banking and things like that, and not artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I'm going to vote no on this, not because I don't necessarily agree with what you say. I just think that's our standard operating procedure anyway, working with our partners at the Chamber of Commerce and everything else. So I just don't think we need a formal resolution. I think this is going to proceed like that anyway.
Okay. John, would you reach out here to the public and let's get
So,
this
yeah,
on.
John Hall, Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce, 34 West Main Street. Your guys' hired economic development contractor. And Councilman Thompson, I appreciate your reluctance at utilization of the word moratorium, recognizing the implication and impact that it can have on businesses. And Councilwoman Fonseca, I think your motion was well put together. There I think are a couple of key components on this. First, you all control the contract that you have with my organization related to the way that we bring economic development projects and work economic development projects in the community. But part of our job is to understand what utility availability and assets we've got as we market options. I've been here for 5 years now, and we've not had water availability yet. So we've had less than 250,000 gallons available in water capacity, and we've never gone through efforts of putting in a moratorium for food production or pet food production or XYZ industry, recognizing that they would have demanded significant water usage. Well, those companies aren't locating here because we don't have the water. You know, a lot of these decisions are made based around the utilities that are available, not with an expectation that all of a sudden the community is going to figure out how to supply those things. But moreover, I think one of the easy and simple directions that can be given, and certainly something that I think we would do as kind of standard practice for these projects, in particular, until we end up with those standards in place, is that any projects that we work on, before they would make a submission, we would request that they come before city council as a discussion item in order to have that conversation. And while I understand that formally through city processes that might not be able to be a requirement, certainly through our organization and the economic development services we provide, we can make that a request, and a strong request, if we're going to seek any kind of approval from this body, as well as if they want our support at Planning and Zoning or Board of Adjustment or any of those components. That should be a standard part of it, because as we've heard here tonight already, the misinformation and disinformation about what utility rates will do. The state of Iowa is not the state of Florida, is not a coastal elite state. We are regulated differently through a regulated utility process. We are not seeing data center projects that are high water users, because again, we've still not got water available. Like, we're working on a 6 million gallon treatment train, but I've been here 5 years and we've just never had water available. And so any efforts that we've ever made in terms of marketing land for the community has been with the understanding that there's just not a lot of water to use. Flushing toilets is fine, but we're not looking to flush it down, flush large quantities down the drain for just cooling purposes. So, I think there's some standards that can absolutely be looked at. I think what Clayton laid out makes complete and total sense, and I think what Councilwoman Fonseca put on the table for a motion makes a lot of sense. I would just continue to encourage you to figure out ways to keep all the processes moving along. Again, we brought a project a couple of years ago before you all. We've got projects in the pipeline that are of different sizes and different scales, but asking us to make it a request or a requirement to come before you as a part of initiation of that process, I don't think is a far stretch, and certainly something that we would look to support. And if we had somebody that decided to go around that system, I think I would probably be in front of you saying, well, let's put a moratorium in place then until it's done, because we can't trust the business community to do the right thing by our community. And so, I think there's a pathway forward that keeps the community open for business and continues to explore what practical development standards look like around these projects. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Your Honor, I do have a question.
Yes.
I know that Mr. Boston said that we don't even really need to direct Planning and Zoning to put it on their agenda. Is Clayton part of Planning and Zoning? I assume he's your staffer. So I guess my question is, do we really need this amendment or what has been put forward by Councilor Fonseca if we've already had the assurances that this is going to happen? We've got the format laid out with all the same information through Clayton's document that he prepared. Is this item necessary to have? That's my question.
Clayton, will you come back on August 24th and or before?
For what purpose?
For what Sue just said.
Will I come back before August 24th?
Yeah, that's our second meeting. That's our second meeting in August. Will you just promise me that you'll come back before August 24th?
I would have to look at the calendar. No, to your question though about processes need, Mr. Boston is correct. That Planning and Zoning Commission can certainly work on these things and make recommendations. We felt that it was warranted to come back to City Council for this discussion item, considering there was the explicit motion at last meeting to refer to Planning and Zoning, and that was denied. So we didn't want to be in conflict with the two bodies together. So that's a major reason why it's back before you this evening, to make sure that we're aligned in process at least.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Question for Clayton. So do you feel you have direction, and John, do you feel like you have direction at this point in time, so you have a good picture of what the concerns of the council are?
I believe I do. Do you?
Yeah.
John believes he does too.
Okay. Let's hear from anyone else in the public.
Good evening, Council. My name is Roberto Gonzalez, 314 North 15th Street. You know, last time I was sitting here, I seen you guys vote. This issue, you should not vote on behalf of yourself, on behalf of Alliant, on behalf of the business community. You should vote on behalf of the city of Marshalltown, the people of Marshalltown. You know, he probably can't afford to pay an increasement on rent, on utilities, right? He makes probably $100,000, I don't know. But somebody that makes $50,000, $40,000, you think they're gonna be able to pay those utilities that they increase? Let's be more considerate of the people of Marshalltown, not just the business community, not just Alliant, and not just every other person or your own personal interest.
I think electric usage and rates is something that Alliant needs to answer to. Because there are, when data centers started, there are terrible data centers out there where cities just said basically build it, and there's stories all over the place about those, and data centers have gotten much better in their water usage and electric usage and all that kind of thing. But to assume that electric prices would go up, or to assume that we would run out of water is factually wrong.
Can I have one more thing?
Go ahead.
I think like the moratorium is it needs to be coming to play, because I think it gives you enough time to find information and find different ways that you can like alleviate that and help the community understand better how data centers affect or how data centers benefit. You know what I mean? I think that's just moratorium is a thing that needs to be in place in order for you to have enough time to go through all that process and be able to tell the community and be transparent with the community what a data center is going to bring to the community, how it's going to affect it, and how it's going to benefit the community. That's just my tip.
Lee Hushak, 2403 New Salem Road. I would agree with that. And just kind of researching.
Okay, can you say your name again?
Lee Hushak,
Okay, thank you. And your address?
2403 New Salem.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just in researching the AI data centers. And so I've learned also tonight, you know, that you're going to look at specific data centers individually. So that's good, because what you're reading is very alarming. You know, that we know they use a lot of energy, water, and minerals, and they've passed on costs to households. They put a strain on local energy grids while they received public tax breaks. They depleted water sources, contributed to contamination, contributed to air pollution, caused warming of the land around them, and an increase of CO2, which is why you're seeing the lawsuits and things that we are. Case studies, Amazon Canton facility, Mississippi, operational since late 2025. They promised 1,000 jobs. What they got was poisoned air and vanishing water. The cooling towers pulled millions of gallons out of their water. Within months, residents began reporting lung irritation, breathing difficulties, and construction dust that settled over their homes and playgrounds, and they saw an increase in childhood asthma rates. So they filed a class action lawsuit alleging Clean Water Act violations. Monterey Park Data Center, California, February 2026. They put a halt to things because of the fine particulate exposure and cancer risks that they're seeing, and the chronic water scarcity that they have, the e-waste that they were seeing, and them raising fears of lead and mercury leaching into their landfills. Stargate Project, Michigan. They got gained approval, and then what they did is they targeted and capitalized on a regulatory loophole that allowed unchecked emissions from natural gas turbines that increased into 1.5 million tons of CO2. per year. And then water withdrawals. And so they seem to find a way around things. And these, we know a lot of these companies are quite wealthy and they know what they're doing. So their conclusion was the the pollution footprint is causing real measurable harm to millions of people and places. So we do need to proceed slowly. And I think your suggestions were great. I think a moratorium is great. I don't think we need to be hurrying this along. These are real concerns, and I don't think that we want to mess this up. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Anyone else?
Lane Perry, 20 State Street. I'm asking you tonight to take this seriously because this may be the last real chance for the public to help shape data center rules before a proposal comes forward. The staff memo in tonight's packet is clear. Marshalltown does not currently have data center specific regulations. Data centers are being treated as major utility uses. They are not permitted by right, but they're also not prohibited in any zoning district. That means they can be considered anywhere in the city through the special use permit process. And that alarms me. A special use permit is not the same thing as having real standards. It means we wait until after an application is filed, after a developer is already in the room, after pressure is already on the city, and then hope we can add enough conditions to protect the public. That's backwards. The memo also says Marshalltown does not regulate water or energy use by land use type. So if a data center came forward today, the question would mostly be whether the system has capacity, not whether one private project should be allowed to use that much water or electricity in the first place. The memo says utility studies and ongoing monitoring are not currently required. Data center specific setbacks are not currently required. Development agreements are not currently required. The likely industrial district does not even have general architectural design standards. These are not small gaps. These are the exact protections we would wish we had if the wrong proposal came in. Without clear rules, a data center could be proposed near homes. It could be proposed near one of the few undeveloped spaces we still have. Residents could be left fighting after the fact over water use, power use, noise, lights, generators, cooling equipment, building design, setbacks, and monitoring. And by then the conversation changes. By then it's no longer a calm public discussion about what standards Marshalltown wants. It becomes a pressured conversation about jobs, investment, deadlines, incentives, lawyers, and whether Marshalltown is open for business. That is exactly why we need rules before an application arrives. I also want council to understand the public concern here. On my public page and personal profile, I've had many comments from Marshalltown residents about this issue. I have not seen a single comment in favor of a data center in any form. That may not be a scientific survey, but it is a real signal. Residents are worried and they want the city to act before this becomes a live project. I'm not asking council to reject all development. I am asking council to protect the public before the pressure is on. Marshalltown should not have to invent its standards while a developer is already waiting for an answer. That is why I'm asking council to act tonight, direct staff to draft data center specific rules now, including zoning limits, utility demand studies, water and power impact review, setbacks from homes in sensitive areas, lighting controls, noise and generator standards, environmental review, design standards, monitoring and development agreement requirements. If that work takes time, then pass a temporary moratorium while those rules are written. That is not anti-development. That is responsible government. It means Marshalltown sets its standards before a developer is asking us to bend to them. Right now, Marshalltown has a permission process for data centers. It does not have a real data center policy. And if council waits until an application is filed, the public will not be helping write the rules. We will be negotiating damage control after the leverage is gone. Please do not leave residents in that position. Close these gaps now. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. Anyone else?
David Arnold, 1710 Campbell. I can't help but think, and this is more of, I guess, a general comment, but certainly brought to head by this data center discussion. Many of these problems, these issues we're talking about are because government, the council, we are now fighting as a public and through a sort of winner takes all process over what used to be in this country private property. You know, sort of the way I learned it and the way I believe is like private property owners have control over their property, and the city in many ways have subsumed that. And I'm digging. I'd like to know the reason for that or the source of your authority on that. But many of these things we're talking about, this power, this water, those conflicts could be managed through private property, through private agreements, where it's negotiation between the companies and the people that own the land, the people that surround the land. What you guys are frankly being asked to do is make decisions based on frankly, I don't think any of you are experts on this topic. So you're being asked to make these gigantic decisions that affect, all the population of Marshtown and surrounding areas. You're not experts, and to be fair, none of you have, like, beyond being residents here, you don't really have a true skin in the game, right? Like, if you guys make a mistake, there's no accountability. Maybe you'll lose your spot on the council, but there's really no real accountability. And I'm saying that, positively, negatively, whatever, it is the reality. And so I don't think I'm going to win this fight, but I would encourage the public, to push back and to drive more of this idea of going at it from a private property standpoint, to wrest the control of your private actions from the council and back into the arms of where they belong, which is you as the private property owner. So I know that doesn't solve your problem, and I'm sympathetic to you not being experts, but much like the chicken thing, much like the sign thing that we talked about, a lot of these wounds are self-inflicted. You guys have taken on the responsibility to be the regulators, when potentially private property would be a better way to handle that, and probably more in keeping with the way this country was founded. So, thanks.
We have anything else?
Maggie Valentine, 2345 Whispering Oaks Road. I guess I just wanted to say that it seems like everybody who's here is kind of asking for the same thing. Just to slow down a little bit and really give consideration. I don't think it's fair to say that citizens are opposed because of misinformation. That really sells us short. I think, we're opposed or just asking to slow down and either have a moratorium, have something in writing, not just like, okay, they've got a good direction, we're going to work this out. We just want to be sure that our interests are protected. I think a lot of people are nervous, opposed, questioning things because of, we are seeing so many comments from news sources, from like personal social media stuff, just more and more and more. I feel like every day I'm seeing more and more and more comments, proposals, just people talking about this when, like, I feel like a year ago or 2 years ago, most people would say, what's a data center? Or, you know what I mean? Like, this is just, it's a serious topic. I think considering a moratorium, whether it's, 4 months, that feels reasonable, what he asked for, or not what he asked for, but what he laid out. I think taking time, I know, you're wanting to really move along, be open for business, all that type of stuff. 4 months isn't enough time that it's going to push off developers. I mean, they want these projects. Taking the time to really gather public opinion and really weigh all the options, it does make sense. That's not extreme, in my opinion. That feels like a conservative, common sense thing to do. And I think what I'm gathering from anybody that I've heard talking about this is the people really want to be able to trust our public officials to represent our interests and to not give in to major corporations. So I guess I don't know, I don't know if your motion would do what I'm asking, but the idea of just having any length of moratorium to pause things while the city gets some regulations in place, I think would really appease a lot of people. So that's it.
Thank you. Okay. Dean.
Got time for one more?
You bet.
Dean Stuckey, 608 Thunderbird Drive. I'll be brief and I'll just read it so that I don't start yammering on, but I had a little article in the paper, and in case somebody didn't see it, this is the most important part of it. Seeing that this is an AI center or data center, I elected to ask AI what they thought the pros and cons to having a data center in Marshalltown, Iowa was. So this isn't me. This isn't me picking on anybody or me having an opinion that's more important than yours. This is AI sharing with me. And he being...
It could be a she.
Could be a she. It gave me 10 questions that the Marshalltown Council should be asking. And I think this is someplace you can start. You as a council can get together and put together all the questions you think you have, compare them to what you think the public has, and get the answers so that you can maybe not get 100% consensus, but I would be afraid of I've watched the votes tonight, and it's really interesting. I would be afraid to see a 7-0 vote for something like this. It's almost like we took somebody else's advice. So if that's the case, take my advice, and here are 10 questions that you need to be asking, according to AI. How many permanent local jobs will be created? We already know it won't be many. What is the exact annual water consumption? There's 3 or 4 different opinions out there, so find out which one is accurate for the data center that you're going to get here or that you'd like to get here. What is the expected electrical demand? The one in Ames uses a fourth of Ames's, in one building, uses a fourth of Ames's electrical output in one little building. What tax incentives are being requested? There are a lot of towns that have these that are happy, like you said, but it's almost always because whoever negotiated the deal going in got a good deal for the city. So I would encourage that. Will local utility customers bear any infrastructure costs? There's a politician running right now saying that data centers get tax increases and customers get price increases, and so that's a question to ask. How will noise and lighting be managed? This is not going to end up on Kester Edition, or it's not going to end up on a real popular place for population to be housing, but it could end up in somebody's backyard, and I would encourage you to watch out for us people that maybe don't have a voice.
You need to move along, Dean.
I got 2 more, 3 more. Okay. How much land is involved? What happens if the company abandons the site? And can the facility be expanded later without additional approval?
Those are good questions.
I would appreciate it if, I appreciate the time, but I would appreciate it if we got answers before we got deals. So, thank you very much.
Annie Grisham, 2125 290th Street, Melbourne, and this is actually why I'm here, not chickens. The chickens just really bother me. This has been a great discussion, and I appreciate it very much. I appreciate hearing what everybody has to say about this. I am a former Microsoft employee. I use data centers a lot. I like data, I like tech. My questions are, from what I heard tonight, there is currently a data center would be able to move in without any council review. That's crazy. That's crazy to not have a moratorium before you have some zoning. Other than that, costs are you can always figure out what the costs are probably going to be. What are the benefits? I've not heard anything about the benefits for Marshalltown. I know what the benefits will be for Alliant, but I don't know what the benefits will be for Marshalltown. And I know what the benefits would be for the data center. So those are my questions. Why are you not making sure that no one can move in before you have some rules in place? And what reason is it for Marshalltown, other than to say you have a data center? Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Yes.
Can I get clarification on that motion? Does it include a moratorium?
It did not include a moratorium.
Okay. I would like to amend it and add a 3-month or 4-month moratorium.
Could I clarify that? Didn't it say that we wouldn't approve anything until after the third reading of that? To me, that sounded like a moratorium.
So I originally, the long version wasn't the final motion. I had to shorten it.
Okay.
And so then it was a shortened version. Alicia, could you please read what I motioned?
I was going to ask you to email it to me.
Okay.
I did not get it down.
Okay,
I
let
was
me
going to
read
have
it.
to
Let me
listen
read it
to the
again.
recording. I
So-
just had that you're directing staff to come up with a zoning amendment for data center regulations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I had listed, I used Clayton's fact sheet, and just a side note, at the last council meeting, I did make a motion to direct staff to work with planning and zoning, and a majority of the council voted it down. So I'm kind of
Right.
don't know. I'm trying here, trying to make these
So
motions.
we have a motion and a second, and now we have an amendment,
4-month moratorium.
4-month moratorium. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, let's deal with the amendment first. Roll call, please.
Cahill,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Mitchell, Nichols,
No.
Schneider,
No.
Thompson,
My vote doesn't matter. I'll say yes.
Yabes Gomez,
Yes.
Okay, now moving on to the original motion.
Nichols,
Sorry, did the amendment pass?
You please read that as amended.
I don't have the exact language per what Melissa said. I'll have to listen to the recording, but the summary I had was to direct staff to establish data center regulations
In addition to that, the moratorium was added, correct?
as the amendment passed for a 4-month moratorium.
So I'll have to say no.
Schneider,
No.
Thompson,
Yes.
Yepes Gomez,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Okay, motion passed. Moving on to, where'd my paper go? Airport damage.
Good evening, Heather Thomas, Public Works. We are going to talk a little bit about the airport. I realize it's been a long council meeting, so I will try to run through this relatively quickly. But short, I am asking for concurrence tonight to proceed with repairs out at the airport without going through a formal design, bid, build process. This is allowed by our current city policy and ICAP insurance, but I just wanted to make sure in transparency that we got that concurrence directly from council as well. So we had a wind event out at the airport on June 17th. We have been working with ICAP and several partners that ICAP have assigned to our claim related to this sense, trying to get some answers and information out of them as far as the extent of the damage and how that process is going to work with this. So out at our airport, we have 11 primary buildings. At this time, 3 of them ICAP has declared total losses, and a 4th one they declared a total loss, then they kind of reversed that opinion, and it's back on the table now, and they're asking for additional, more in-depth review on the financial comparison of repairing and replacing that. So in short, we have for sure 3 large, I'm going to call them executive or corporate type hangars, which means a large space with 1 large door, that are total losses, and 1 10-unit T hangar. So those are a longer building with 10 individual buildings that have in the shape of a T back to back and allowing the wingspan of those airplanes. And so here's just a map of those areas. Of the 3 that are declared a total loss, the number 2 building is currently the building that is done and houses Marshalltown Aviation as the shop, and I do have some pictures here shortly. Number 3 is where we have most of our equipment storage, and number 4 is a traditional used as a hangar storage hangar. Okay, so debris cleanup. I want to just shout out real quick and thank you to everybody who assisted immediately after the aftermath. We had 27 city employees come out and help us with debris cleanup. Anytime you have an event like this, especially with the debris field that you can see on the right there, it extended quite a ways away. That farmer did a lot of the work in their field themselves, but city staff did a lot of the work on the airport grounds and some of the airports. So again, thank you to those 27 staff members and their ability of the department heads to allow us to utilize them in getting a quick response. I also want to shout out to Steve out at Marshalltown Aviation and David Deemer here at the city, who have been tremendous since this event. It was a pretty large event out there, and I know a lot of them have spent a lot of time working through this since that time. As we talk about these buildings, I mentioned I'm here in front of you tonight requesting for permission to go ahead and proceed with certain repairs. This is one of them. This is the new building that we accepted in 2023. It has the large hangar and terminal. Our terminal was minimally impacted. However, our large hangar, the large 100-foot wide doors were damaged and blown off and blown inward, and then also the roof on it itself is going to need to be a full replacement. This is a pretty critical hangar out there for how it's currently used, and bringing in planes, especially as we get into the winter time frame where we have heated storage for airplanes, is also important. Building number 2 is our maintenance shop. This building is a total loss. This is the building currently that we still have airplanes trapped inside. We have made some efforts, and we have some blocking that you can see in the picture there. That blocking allowed people to go in if the wind is less than 15 miles an hour. Tomorrow we have another company coming in to additionally stabilize that building with the hopes of being able to retrieve and get the planes out of the building. That will be probably a week or so process to get that underway. Building 3, this is where our equipment storage was. Again, this building has been declared a total loss. We were very fortunate with some of the repair companies and places that we've utilized in the past, like Dan's Overhead Door, who was able to come out in a very quick response and help us remove some of those doors off so that we could access the equipment and items inside. One of the items inside in this particular building was the fuel truck, and so in order to provide and be operational at the airport, we needed some of that equipment out of there. Building number 4 is our executive hangar. Again, this was a large, not heated space, but it has been declared a total loss. Building 5 is another 2-unit executive hangar. It actually has hangar doors on both sides of the building. This building in relative to all the other buildings, was the least damaged hangar from a visual standpoint. Building 6 is an executive hangar with an office. This one will need a full roof replacement on it. And then the office itself, actually the blew in the sidewall on it. Some of these pictures are after our debris removal was done cleaning up. We did have some assistance from the police department and some of the drone footage that we took out there. Building 7 is a 10-unit T-hanger. This building had a lot of door damage, as would be anticipated with the large doors. This building, as well as some of the other T-hangers, that top beam where the doors are attached to the building are bent out and inward. So in addition to general roof replacements, there is a little bit of the structural steel as well. However, if it's limited to just kind of the outside, maybe a couple purlins or girts, it's not declared a total loss. It's repairable. However, because we have airplanes out there, sequencing of repairs of these various hangars and T-hangars are going to be critical. Building 8, very similar to that. Again, door damage, some metal work and those kind of things, but most of the structural members are in place. Building 9 is a 6-unit T-hanger, and again, similar to that, the wind did take a little bit of a toll on some of those doors. Building 10, this is the T-hanger that's currently being evaluated further. This one took some roof damage. Some of the inside and interior skinning of the building between the T-hanger units is also needing to be replaced, which means you're now replacing all of the electrical in the building that are attached to that skin. And so that's why they're going to be doing a more in-depth dive on the cost analysis of whether this is a repairable building or it's a replacement. So this building is still under review. Again, that was just a quick summary of kind of the damage out there. So as you can manage, we are definitely in the millions of dollars of damage out there. So again, my request tonight is concurrence from council to proceed with repairs on the buildings that are not deemed total losses in a manner allowed by our purchasing policy and ICAP that does not require us to do a formal design, bid, build. The reason for that request is time sensitivity. Winter will be here before we know it, and right at the moment, we are going to be hurting for an ability to maintain and minimize impact to those leaseholders out there. Additionally, because of the sequencing necessary, in particular of some of the larger hangar space, for us to put together a package that a contractor would bid on and be able to sequence repairs to, let's say, building 1 versus building 6, that is going to limit the pool of interested contractors and increase the ability that they will not be able to work at the same time. And then when you factor in lead times on materials, which may be different for different buildings, that coordination piece that's necessary that you would typically specify out in a formal bid process is not something that ICAP feels is feasible and still be able to make some of these repairs before winter. We would agree if we would go out and put together formal bid design plans, specifications, and go through a formal bid letting, we would be lucky to even start some of these repairs before winter. I mentioned the city's purchasing policy has several applicable guidelines. I included this in your memo. I do want to update one thing on the ICAP. I did finally get in writing that ICAP would not require us to put this rebuild and repairs out to bid. So they actually include rebuilding as well. I'm not asking for that tonight. I'm just talking about repairs themselves. But we do have correspondence with ICAP related to this. One change from my memo is specifically to the insurance coverage. Previously, right after the event, we had requested both from finance and from ICAP information related to our deductible and how that applies to a case like this. Initially, we were told $5,000 per impacted scheduled building. That is our standard deductible out there. However, we learned on Friday that there is a wind and hail coverage rider, or whatever you want to call it, that is 2% of the reported covered value. So that's not replacement value. That's what's actually stated in our current insurance policy for value of the building. That is a higher amount. So out at the airport, we have about $10.3 million worth of scheduled building components out there. 2% would be 205,000. We are looking at a possible schedule by schedule item review. There are a couple items on that list, such as the vault, that we do not believe sustained any damage. So we're trying to figure out if they would require us to pay the 2% on the entire location, or if they would piece that out for us on building per building. Again, this is preliminary information, just as a heads up as we move forward through the insurance process. Currently, we have a city insurance reserve account, and it's currently sitting at $372,000. This is our insurance schedule. I won't go line by line through this, but as I mentioned, each of the buildings have their own schedule line item. It's 2% of this valuation that they're using for that insurance deductible. Very far at the bottom, you know, there's some electrical buildings and stuff. Again, we would want to go through each of these buildings and determine if the damage is going to be greater than or less than 2%. If it's less than 2%, we would go ahead and do anything necessary outside of the insurance claim, because that would be more cost effective for the city in that manner. So that's just FYI information. Again, this is what I'm asking for this evening. Again, super shout out to Steve and David for their efforts since this event, and I would open it up for any questions.
So, Your Honor, can I just make a motion? I'll make the motion that we move forward, get this repaired as fast as possible, get us back in business.
I hear a second.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Anyone? Roll call, please.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Yepes Gomez,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Mitchell, Nichols.
Yes.
Motion passed, and that is the end of our agenda. Thank you for coming. Hi there. Sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it's
Like if somebody's not here, Jason replies to the village in the next 2 weeks before the next meeting.
I think council considered this a closed session. I would not I'm not quite sure council considered that to be a violation.
Yes.
Yeah, I just didn't know, discussion.